Good afternoon and welcome to Real Big Talk. I'm Big Rick, that's Lola. This is the Watchdog, 304-214-1600. Lots to talk about today. In fact, I think this is the show I've had the most notes for ever. I don't think we'll get to a tenth of what's on the sheet, but let's talk about the weekend. Lola, did you have a nice weekend?
Yes, very uneventful, but...
I had a nice weekend too. Mine was quite eventful. Uneventful sounded nice compared to all the running around that I did this weekend. I went to a wedding. One of my nearest and dearest got married in Parkersburg, so that's why I split out of here a little early on Friday. And thanks to Butch again for coming in and finishing off the show for me so I could attend this wedding. And it was a weird situation to walk into a room for the first time with that many people. Now, granted, I've gone to Nailer games and a Penguin game, and so I've been in a space that has a fair amount of people, but it's also a fair amount of space. This was in a hall, just probably at max would have held, 100, 125 people. At max, there was maybe about 40 people there. And I sat at a table with a couple of friends that I knew were vaccinated. So I actually was the first time in a long time that I'd been in a room. Now, a lot of people, actually no people other than me, had a mask on. When I ate, of course, I didn't have it on. And when we would discover we were all vaccinated sitting in a tight proximity together, it didn't feel as weird. But it was definitely a weird feeling to go back to a social gathering like a wedding. And I think one of two things are going to happen. It's going to take a lot of time for people to start to generate the idea of, once I'm vaccinated, this is safe. Or if you're not planning on getting vaccinated, you already don't care. I think people are going to flock back to these things, but it is going to feel weird initially. I got to tell you, when I was walking in, I was just, should I do this? Should I really be doing this? And I think that's all mental. We should be doing things like celebrating our friends and things like that. You just have to do them safely. But it was nice to do that. It was really nice to do that. The second half of my weekend was Saturday was a big, long meeting about the other avenue of my life, which is putting on live events. And even though cases seem to be rising, everybody is under the impression that live events, certainly not to the degree of full stadium tours, which we'll talk about later in the show, are going to happen. But people believe that 500 people will be able to gather outside by July. And so we're all in that position. And as we were talking, what I do here is essentially book events into a club. And when I was talking to the club manager, the person, because there's a restaurant attached to it as well, and this is where my point is trying to get to. Maybe I took a long way around it. But he said to me, how many people do you think you're going to need to pull this off? And I said, probably about 20 to 25 working as bartenders, waitstaff, barbacks, all that kind of stuff. And he said, that's not going to happen. What do you mean? He can't find anybody to work. He can't find anybody to work. I think I saw a similar article about this, about the Vagabond Kitchen. Yeah. I think I saw that. I can't remember if I saw it in the Intelligence or at WTRF, but I know that last week I read that story. And again, I don't know those people. I don't know that operation. So it's a story I read. It didn't become real life to me until it was something I was involved with. And he said, don't anticipate that. You're going to have to figure out how to do it with less people. And I guess again, until it hit me that it was a part of something that I needed to deal with, that this is a huge problem for the restaurant industry right now. I mean, to the point where I saw last night, well, on Saturday, another restaurant in Parkersburg, because again, I was there, I saw a restaurant that a ton of people go to, Da Vinci's Restaurant. It's in Williamstown, West Virginia, right on the Ohio River. And they actually had a put out a huge Facebook statement about please stop giving us bad reviews. It's not that we don't want to get you your meal in a timely fashion. We only have so many people here to work. And it's not because we don't want more. It's because we can't get more. So a lot of these restaurants that struggled to survive through this, I mean, some of them didn't make it, obviously. But the ones who did and the ones that are trying to push forward and even have the opportunity in states like West Virginia and Ohio to be open, they're getting bad reviews and getting slammed on social media for something that honestly they can't control. They bring in everyone they have as often as they'll work.
Everywhere we have been, we went out to, well, every weekend, that's how we eat. We
Sure.
go out. But fast food restaurants, small establishments, big ones, everybody has hiring signs up. Everywhere. You go through Burger King or McDonald's, they've got signs there. We're hiring. So, yeah, it's not that they're overrun. People just don't want to go to work.
No, and I feel this is, like I said, it's the first time it slapped me in the face directly. I mean, I've been able to, the handful of times I've gone out to eat in the last year, I mean, it's increased a little bit because I feel more comfortable, but not more than 10 in the last 365 days or more. I guess until I had to look at it, because in my mind, it's just, well, that's what I'm going to need. It's like, well, good luck. Good luck. And so I went ahead and I figured this out a little bit. And now I have never worked in the service industry. And I know that some people in the service industry can make an absolute killing. Mm-hmm. I knew people in the service industry in West Virginia. So I'm not talking like Las Vegas. I'm talking in West Virginia. They were pulling down $1,000 a week. They were making a ton of tips. They were working double shifts. They were hardworking people. I mean, and I mean, they still are. I'm just saying, during the heyday of restaurants over a year ago, they were pulling down some serious cash. In West Virginia, if you made, I think it's like $35,000 or $40,000, whatever the threshold is, your max payout on your regular unemployment is like $436 or something. So basically, if you take the taxes out and you add that $300 a month to take the taxes out of that, you're at like $662 a week. $662. And that's going to last through September. And there may be more, and again, that's something else we'll talk about at the end of the show. But if you're making $662 to not have to serve, and you really only made about $500 or $600 a week to actually serve, you're not going to go back and do it. You're not going to go back and do it. And this isn't me pointing a finger and saying this shouldn't be happening, this shouldn't be happening. There's a lot of people out there that don't do this. I'm specifically talking about the service industry. These restaurants survive just to find out that they're not going to have anybody to push them through now that they can reopen. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know. I saw last night a restaurant that I go to had a closed sign on a Monday or on a Sunday night, which they're usually open until 9. Closed, no staff. They fought to stay open, and now they can't open because there's no one to work.
Well, where my sister works, they had to lay off, people. And it's just not right that, these people that they have called to come back to work, they won't. But I don't know how you go about going to unemployment and saying, they have refused work, which would knock them off unemployment.
Yeah.
Lord knows the unemployment agency is so overwhelmed with everything else. I don't know that they even would have the manpower to be able to track down people that, have been, so to speak, turned in by previous employers for refusing to come back to work. I don't know that they even have the capability, but it's really infuriating that, places can't get the help, and that's what it is. They're collecting all this extra money. Now, in some places around the country, it's a godsend. Around here, people needed it. Yes, they did. And I'm not saying they didn't. And if they don't have the opportunity to go back to work, they should still get it. But, I don't know. I feel for the employer.
I do. You know what? And I'll be honest with you. Never in my life have I taken that stance. But I agree. Let's take this quick break. I have a little bit of a theory. It might be a little crazy, but I have a little bit of a theory about this. And we'll talk about that in just a few minutes here on The Watchdog.
The Variety Show with Bill DeFabio is live on The Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We talk to some of the region's best business owners while keeping you informed about area events and happenings. You won't believe who I have on next. Tune in and get with the program. Guests from preachers to pros and even some Super Bowl champions. Join me, Bill DeFabio, from noon to 2 for The Variety Show on The Watchdog.
Does your dog need groomed or walked? Are you looking for a pet sitter or dog boarding options? If so, call Dirty Paws, Wheeling's newest pet care service, providing the Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
With all of the stress and distractions of the last year, you may have neglected going to the dentist. Well, now is the time to make an appointment, because delaying dental care can be detrimental for your oral health and your overall health. Dentists have always practiced stringent infection control standards, and over the last year, they've taken additional new precautions to ensure dental patients are protected. When you make your appointment, ask if your dentist is a member of the Ohio Dental Association, so you know that you are being treated by the very best. Ohio Dental Association member dentists are located throughout the state and are dedicated to providing the highest quality dental care. These ODA member dentists are bound by the highest ethical standards and have access to superior ongoing education, training, and resources. To find an ODA dentist in your area, visit associationsadvanceohio.com.
This guy knows so much about sports. They based the Sports Almanac from Back to the Future off of his Dream Journal. He's Bill DeFabio, weekdays noon to 2 on the Valley's only network dedicated to live and local talk radio, The Watchdog.
Welcome back to the Watchdog. I'm Big Rick. That's Lola. Real Big Talk continues. 304-214-1600. Get in on this conversation. I think it's one that's going to affect us for the rest of 2021 as things get back to normal-ish, whatever that means. Open up more, however you want to phrase it. Have you gone out and had this issue? And I'm finding myself on the team of employers, which normally I wouldn't, but I do. I think it's very difficult right now. If you're just joining the show, over the weekend, for the first time in the course of this pandemic, in my own life, did the fact that places can't staff right now affect me. And really, I don't honestly understand things a lot of times until something actually jumps up and bites me. And that's what happened. I'm trying to plan an event for late this summer. And when I told them what the staff necessary was, they just kind of laughed and said, that ain't going to happen. We can't get anybody to work. Restaurants are having this problem. If you guys have encountered it, 304-214-1600. I'd love to hear about it. And this isn't to slam restaurants. We need restaurants. We need restaurants, honestly, down the road to provide jobs. They help our economy. They put most restaurants, especially just thinking about the ones here in Wheeling that I frequent, they're putting people's kids through school, buying them clothes. I mean, this isn't like throwing money at McDonald's, and I'm not slamming McDonald's either because they're, a lot of those franchises are owned by people in and around the region. But it's not just giving your money to a giant corporation. It's, your kids' classmates' parents own these restaurants. That's where it really gets interesting for me. But here's my theory on this. So, and again, I feel like I'm pointing a negative finger at the idea of unemployment existing, and I can't do that because I relied on it. I needed it. We all got bamboozled by this, and some of us lost our jobs. So, yeah, my goodness, if it hadn't been there, I'm not sure what I would have done. So I'm not pointing the finger at it and saying it's bad. But what it does is puts the industries that probably put you slightly ahead on unemployment than it would for you going back to work, or draws you even, puts you slightly ahead. Those people are not going back to work. They have the chance to do it, and they're not going back to work. So here was my thought, and Lola, I'm sure you will formulate a reason why this either makes sense or it doesn't, and I always welcome you to do both, because this is a talk show. We're talking. I wonder, and now I've read, and simply just read, so I'm not saying this is happening, so don't call and start yelling about Joe Biden, but I've read that the consideration is there's possibly another stimulus in the future. There's possibly another stimulus. What all that encompasses, I don't know, and this is not necessarily the infrastructure bill that you've been hearing so much about, and the idea that they want to spend $3 trillion on infrastructure. That's a different conversation for a different time. This is either direct payments, continuation of unemployment, all the things that stimulating the economy requires to come out of this pandemic. So there is talk of yet another one, which would be the fourth round of it. Again, that creates its own issue. But one of the things that didn't happen with this past stimulus check that a lot of people were selling themselves on was the idea of minimum wage going up to $15 an hour, which essentially failure to launch, but certainly talked about and hotly contested there for a minute. Here's a theory. Is the idea of extending unemployment and it continuing to be a reason that people won't go back to work because, again, they're a little bit ahead or at least even on what they'd be making every week? Is that an effort to kind of force employers to raise what they would pay to incentivize people to come back to work? Because if you're a restaurant just trying to and I'm just using restaurants as an example because that's the example that I just lived through. If you're a restaurant and you pay whatever the minimum server wage is, which that I don't get, I've never been a server, and I can honestly say if someone told me, and I don't think it's probably $2.65 anymore, but for a lot of times they make under minimum wage because
yes, they do.
They get tips and they try to average that in. Is extending this unemployment and keeping those people on unemployment for a while a reason for employers to say, you know what, fine, we'll come back to work and we're going to set the minimum wage here at $10 an hour plus tips? Because that's still going to raise the price of food. It's going to raise the price of everything because that money has to come from somewhere. But is that the approach you think they're taking? Because honestly, I feel like that's really what it's going to take to get people to go, you know what, I can now make more money serving, being a bartender, whatever you want to call it, going back to work. I can now make more money than I ever did on unemployment. I think it's what it's going to take.
Probably. That's a really...
Look, it's just a theory.
I know, and my gut says yes, but to really be able to flesh it out and really think about it, you need to take the amount of money that they get from unemployment, add in the money they get from the federal government, then on the other side of the ledger, take $10 an hour times how many hours you think you're going to work, and roughly how many tables it takes to get $100 in tips.
Sure, and that's a science I don't get because I've never done it myself.
So and then you have to weigh which one you're going to come out ahead with, But, yeah, that could very well be to force restaurants into raising the minimum wage, and then what? Might end up forcing them out of business.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of it's a slippery slope. Asking a restaurant that normally pays whatever the minimum server wage is, and it varies from state to state, and just because it may be $4.25 in one state and $3.85 in another, again, it's well below whatever the state minimum wage is. Basically, they give you that just to take care of your taxes. It never really, I know a lot of people that it never really washes out at all. Sometimes they get $3 paychecks because, of washing out their taxes. And let's face it, when we come back into a booming, restaurant industry, whatever that looks like, I really seriously doubt everybody's going to report the cash that they make on their income tax accurately. Not saying that they did before, but I really think it's probably going to be a lot less. So I'm wondering if that's sort of the plan. And if you have restaurant experience or this is something that you do for a living, you don't have to say who you are. We won't give you away. But I'd love to talk to someone who actually is going through that right now. Because I saw the people that were working the restaurants. I was in 2 restaurants this weekend, which again was more than I had been in one weekend in a long time. And minimum, bare bones staff. And not because there weren't people eating. People are going out. Which is probably why cases are going up in some aspects, but people are done with the pandemic. They're done. Whether it's over or not, whether they're safe or not, whether they're vaccinated or not, whatever it is, people want to go out. But if there's nobody to serve them, restaurants aren't going to survive. And if they've got to pay $10 an hour or incentivize it with whatever, and I'm just using the number 10 for a nice round number, I'm telling you, I think that's really what the thought is. Because if they extend this past September, I don't think any of these people are going back to work till 2022.
The minimum wage for servers in West Virginia is 70% of minimum wage, which was $8.75. So that they can have to make at least $6.13 an hour, and then they add in at like $2.62 or something like that for a tip balance in there or something. But they have to make they have to be paid per hour 70% of the $8.75. So.
Well, that's good information. I can tell you in Pennsylvania, it's much less. In Pennsylvania's minimum wage, I think, is $7.25. It's pretty low. It's pretty low. I'm not sure what it is for Ohio, but yeah, that's kind of just, again, maybe just a theory. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but I think it's what it's going to take to get those people to go back to work. And that I think restaurants are going to have just every bit as hard a time as overcoming that as they did not being open during the pandemic. Because if you're not open, you're not ordering anything, you're not doing those things, and yeah, your income is obviously hurting dramatically, but you're not paying out necessarily more than you would normally have. A lot of businesses, a lot of people base the idea of, how do I make sure that my business can operate during slow months? Well, you have a year's worth of operating capital, so you can do that during something like this. And I know not everybody has that, and certainly not everybody personally has that, but that's kind of the plan. If now it's like, hey, we can come back, we can open, we could be at 100% capacity, which not every place can. West Virginia can, but not every place can. And it's like, great, we have a full house, and we have 3 servers. Yeah. This isn't going to work. We're not going to make money, and these people are going to get mad and not come back. I'm on team ownership here. I've never been on team ownership, but I definitely am on that one. We're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll come back with fresh topics, and coming up, we got an interview at 3 o'clock. So a lot of stuff happening on today's show. We'll be right back on the Watchdog.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Chris Lawrence. West Virginia towns, cities, and counties are going to be getting more sizable chunks of money from the federal government. That money part of the American Rescue Plan, aiming to help cover the losses and shortfalls from the pandemic. But that money in most cases also has very strict rules on how it can be spent. State Auditor J.B. McCuskey and his staff plan to set up workshops around the state to help with those rules.
We've actually created a new team of people that are working directly with Senator Manchin's folks to make sure that all of the changes in the law are updated to our decision makers at the city and county level at real time.
West Virginia will get about $1.25 billion, and municipal government's about $677 million. The mayor of Lewisburg says she thinks her Greenbrier County city has a lot to offer those who want to keep working remotely post-pandemic.
Lewisburg will get help with recruiting those remote workers through West Virginia University's new Brad and Alice Smith Outdoor Economic Development Collaborative. Brad Smith, an Intuit executive, is a Wayne County native. He and his wife donated $25 million to try to bring new workers to start into Lewisburg, Shepherdstown, and Morgantown. A great idea, says Lewisburg Mayor Beverly White.
I think West Virginia is very well positioned for remote workers to come.
The focus for this remote worker recruitment program is on the Mountain States outdoor offerings with a nod to innovation. I'm Shauna Johnson, WV, MetroNews.com.
And you're listening to Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. Hundreds were vaccinated in a drive-through clinic in the parking lot of Toyota's Putnam County plant on Sunday. Toyota offering that one-day clinic to its employees in partnership with the state of West Virginia. Last week, Governor Jim Justice announced those partnerships with several large employers across the state. The workers and their families who wanted it got a dose of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, meaning they only needed one shot. It's the first Toyota plant in the world to offer such vaccinations. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Chris Lawrence.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash, powered by The Score on the Watchdog. I'm John Thayer. Billy Horschel held on to win the Texas Match Play event, the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play in Austin, Texas. He defeated Scotty Scheffler 2-1 in the championship. Earlier in the day, Horschel had defeated Victor Perez 3-2. Scotty Scheffler won up on Matt Kuchar. Matt Kuchar defeated Victor Perez in the third place consolation match 2-1. The PGA Tour will stay in Texas this week for the Valero Texas Open. After 2.5 inches of rain fell across Thunder Valley, NASCAR made the decision yesterday to postpone the race on Bristol's dirt track to today. Download the Score app today, lightning fast sports alerts, so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm John Thayer with the Sports Flash, powered by The Score on the Watchdog.
Guys, we need to clear a path here.
Indeed knows unexpected employee turnover can stall your business.
But tonight, John.
Like at Chris's Logistics Company, to avoid things grinding to a halt, he needs to get started hiring right away.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. And the moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first sponsored job post. Terms and conditions apply.
What do you get when you talk to a Dell Technologies advisor? You get someone who understands there's an art to listening.
Sure.
Who's able to hear more than what's being said and can provide tailored small business solutions that make you feel truly heard.
I understand. Let's get started.
For advice on everything from laptops to the cloud and solutions powered by Intel vPro platform, call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL.
Hello, I'm Chuck Reddick, Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service. We're working hard to get ready for tax filing season. You know who else is working hard? Identity thieves. Keep your computers and your mobile phones secure. Use antivirus software and strong passwords. Look out for email scams. Secure your home Wi-Fi with a password. Stay safe when you shop online. Look for HTTPS in the web address. See irs.gov for details.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands is the perfect place to relax after a long day. Happy hour from 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. Get $2 off appetizers, $3 off domestic drafts, and house wine specials. Quaker Steak and Lube, voted Best Wings USA. Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands with another steal of a deal. Get a steak burger and fries all day Monday for only $8.99. It's also Military Mondays. The Lube will take 25% off for all veterans, active duty military, and first responders. Quaker Steak and Lube, voted Best Wings USA.
We get it almost every night. that a moon gets so big and bright, it's supernatural delight. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. Everybody here is out of sight. They don't bark and they don't bite. They keep things loose, they keep things alive. Everybody was dancing in the moonlight. Dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's feeling warm and bright. It's such a fine and natural sight. Everybody.
Welcome back to the Watchdog. That's Lola. I'm Rick. Real Big Talk continues now. 304-214-1600. 304-214-1600. Phone lines open until 3 o'clock. We got an interview coming in, but we can talk about anything until then. Let's start on this. I have no idea the set of circumstances that leads people to run for public office. Nothing I ever thought about doing. As often as I see, the mayor comes in here, so I see a politician at least once a week. But nobody particularly close to me has ever been someone who has pursued politics as a career. So to say I know a great deal about the process would be a lie. However, I do understand the idea of what's happening around me, and it shocks me sometimes when politicians don't. It shocks me, and we can go all the way up the food chain, but let's just stay right here in Ohio. Did you see what the lieutenant governor of Ohio said?
Yes, I heard on the news.
Yeah, so the lieutenant governor of Ohio posts, "So it appears it was the Wuhan virus after all." There was an article that came out over the weekend that the ex-CDC director says he believes, now he is not part of the investigation that's happening now, but he said he believes the coronavirus originated in a Wuhan lab. So the lieutenant governor of Ohio, is it Husted? Is that how you say that?
I don't know. I didn't vote for him.
Husted. I just want to make sure I'm saying his name right. But the lieutenant governor of Ohio goes ahead, retweets the story with, "So it appears it's the Wuhan virus after all." Now, there are plenty of people that believe that. Again, I'm not in Wuhan. I don't work for the CDC or the WHO. I'm not there, but what I have to do is take science's word for it. Because science. Why would we send kids to college to become scientists if we're not going to believe them when they become scientists? I still don't get that part, but okay. With all the things that are happening in the world right now, especially the idea of Asian people being abused around this country, would you retweet this and use the words Wuhan virus? Now, since then, there have been a series of tweets by the lieutenant governor saying, "I was only referring to the Chinese government." Look, you can criticize China. Honestly, someday it feels like they're going to just run this country. It really does. China is ahead of us. I hate to break it to you, America, but China is pulling away. In technology and a lot of medical field. They are doing quite well. So the more time we spend making fun of them or pointing fingers at them and not actually addressing the fact that we need to improve ourselves is probably bad. But right now, even if you feel this way, even if you think the virus came directly out of a Wuhan lab, you're the lieutenant governor of a state, a big one, an important state. And I get it that there's a lot of narrative that has to be carried with political parties and things like that. I can understand that, at least from an outsider looking in. What I don't understand right now, where you're having rallies pop up around the country, and trust me, there are Asian people living in Ohio. Why would you retweet it? Retweet the story. If you believe the story, believe the story. Believe the story. If that's you, if you hardcore believe that it was brought here and created in a lab and all that stuff, that's you. That is a you belief. But as someone with that much political pull in an entire state, why add the additional sentence? Why have to go out there and defend what you wrote when you could just be smart enough to not write it in the first place? Share the story. Share it. It's somebody else's words. You're just sharing it. Am I crazy here, or do I hold politicians at a higher standard than I think I should? To me, that says, okay, well, I'm sitting at my desk and I go, oh, look, there's a placard on my desk that says Lieutenant Governor of a huge state. Perhaps, maybe, if I'm going to share this article that I read that I find fascinating and believe to be truthful, perhaps I shouldn't add my own commentary that could, again, spur hate against Asian people. But no, not even the hell with it. Let's just write it anyway. And then have to go backtrack and defend myself.
Because they think that they are the be-all and end-all. That's why.
Is it an arrogance thing?
Yes, I would assume that's part of it. And yet, okay, so one guy says he thinks it came out of a lab. Okay, that is one of the stories that has been going around since the very beginning of all of this. And yet you had other people, other scientists saying, no, they really believe that it cross-jumped or whatever, I forget what the term is they use, from an animal to an intermediate host and then to humans. So, you got 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And at this point in time, should we not be worrying about eradicating it around the world instead of trying to point fingers when you'll never get an absolute answer to this? So, okay, that happened. It happened. This is what we're dealing with now. Let's deal with now and tomorrow and not worry about a year ago. It just puts your energy where it's going to do the most good.
Well, no, I agree with everything you said. And I think more than anything, I'm just shocked at how
dumb he was.
Yeah, this is a dumb move. It's a dumb move. It's a dumb move. With all the political juice that you have, and I get it, it is a narrative that perhaps that you need to follow for your political life. I look, we've seen it on both sides. People do that. Deep down, I believe people do whatever it is that they think is going to get them back in their seat. Not so much the right thing. It's what is the right thing to get me back to my seat. And I understand that. And again, share the story. If that's what you want to do, share the story. But I can't believe on the heels of what looks to be an absolute Asian hate crime that you would do this. I don't know. I don't know. I think, again, it's me being a naive idiot sometimes thinking that the people in these positions should be more rational thinking than I am. I think maybe that's how I should stop thinking about that. Again, I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I would probably sit down on my computer and go, well, I agree, this story is absolutely accurate. But my rational brain would tell me, you know what, don't add my 2 cents in to have to go back and retract later. Or not retract, but at least defend my statements. Why does somebody make more trouble for themselves? I think maybe that's really the thing. I don't really care if you're right or you're left, whatever. This program's about just, I think, common sense is what I try to make this program about. We've talked about it before. To me, this is just a common sense issue that just went way out the window.
I know.
It's no common sense. None whatsoever. Since we are on the subject and we're getting ready to take a break, I will mention that yeah, indeed, the WHO believes, the World Health Organization, believes that this basically happened at a wet market, I think is what they call it. And if you've never seen that, it's vile. You're not going to have an appetite if you saw one. But yeah, it came from really just a very terrible combination of things happening all at one time. Honestly, maybe it helps me sleep at night thinking that that's the truth. I don't want to believe that we just went through a hellacious year plus of time, or that we lost family, friends, good times, holidays, all the things that you can point back and go, this past year robbed us of this because someone did it intentionally. That I really think, if this ever came out to be the real honest truth, which again, I think we'll never truly know. We'll never truly know. But boy, it would be a lot harder to swallow, wouldn't it?
Think about the logistics of doing that. To have had this in a lab and say one person decides they're going to do this. I just find it really difficult to believe that it could, one single person could have started such a tidal wave in such a short time.
Yeah.
To encompass an entire city in just a very short period of time. I don't know.
It is. It's a hard thing to process and thought. I guess the only thing I can liken it to as we get ready to take this break is those couple idiots that started the wildfires in California. That really was like just a couple of idiots.
Yeah.
And I mean, it encompassed so much of California and up through other states. I mean, for that to start, I want to say so innocently, I should really say so small, and turn into what it turned into. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not pushing this theory. I'm just saying that small numbers have created huge problems.
Yeah.
We've seen that before.
True.
Yeah, that's really the kind of thought I had about it. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll come back, one more subject, and then we're going to get into a big interview coming up here at 3 o'clock. This is The Watchdog.
This is Bill DeFabio, your host of the variety show with Bill DeFabio. Heard on The Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Join me from noon till 2 to talk sports, nostalgia, and hear from some of the legends of the game. You won't believe who I have on next. The Bill DeFabio Variety Show, heard on The Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tune in and get with the program. I'm Bill DeFabio. Join me for the Variety Show on The Watchdog.
Hey man, what can I get you?
Yeah, can I have 2 Coors Lights?
You got it. Hey Mike! I need 2 Coors Lights!
Sure thing.
With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time. Here you go.
Thanks, Mike. Doing a great job. All right, 2 ice cold Coors Lights.
That's the coldest beer I've ever had.
Hey, they don't call it the world's most refreshing beer for nothing.
Okay, be honest with me. Do you really have the Rocky Mountains in your beer cooler?
You don't believe it? Check it out.
Man, that's pretty amazing.
I know, right? I can't believe it myself sometimes. I mean, this cooler is only 3 feet wide.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
Dallas, the Watchdog is protecting your yard. Join Howard Monroe, Hoppy Kercheval, Bill DeFabio, and Big Rick for the best live and local talk in the Upper Ohio Valley and beyond. Dallas trusts the Watchdog.
Update your garage and get 11% off everything now at Menards. Menards has a great selection of ideal garage doors to choose from. With over 1,500 doors on Menards.com, you're sure to find the right door for your home. All ideal garage doors are 11% off. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through April 3rd. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards. Hang on, Snoopy, Snoopy, hang on. Hang on, Snoopy, Snoopy, hang on. Snoopy lives in a very bad part of town.
Just give it an extra second to let the Ohio State fans soak it in.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, the Ohio State fans soaking in. It's okay. Soak it in. You know, I was looking at just flipping through a calendar because I'm planning things long term, and I found myself as I'm planning, looking at the football schedule for the upcoming football season, and it feels like it's forever away, but it's really not. It's really not. We're on the verge of April. Practice will start in August. I mean, I think if nothing else, even if we find ourselves still in the pandemic, which we will, I don't think they're going to call an end to this for a long time, although that we may get back to some normalcy of some sort. I think we have seen that football can be played in some capacity or another, and I would imagine that it starts in August, so people will get excited and people will be slooping till the cows come home. And I'm excited for it too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dogging Ohio State. The ship in the Suez Canal has been freed. This was a weird 5 days of watching this story develop. So we read stories about how there were sheep on board. They were worried about, how will the sheep maintain being on board an extra 5 days than they had planned? Well, the fact that toilet paper could have become scarce again. I don't think we realize how much we rely on those things, especially in the Suez Canal. Here was the scary part for me. I don't know if anybody saw this or not, but I decided I was going to read into it because I found the whole thing fascinating. First of all, you have a little tiny excavator trying to free this enormous ship. So the pictures itself are just worth the look because it looks ridiculous. It looks like, why is there just this little tiny earth mover trying to free this? But I guess that's really all they could do. All the sand built up in mud, it was just stuck. And really just getting the front of it unstuck was all they could do, and I guess they couldn't put a lot of massive equipment out there, so it took a while. For me, the scary part were the ships that decided that they were just going to go around the southern tip of Africa to still be able to deliver their goods. And there were 350 plus ships that were stacked up waiting to go through the Suez Canal that were backed up. But is it not where the stories about all the ocean pirates that we hear, and I'm not talking Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm talking about actual pirates that will take ships and kill you, that's all taking place around the southern tip of Africa, is it not?
Somalian pirates.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Just imagine that. Like, hey, sorry, you're going to be on the ship an extra couple weeks because we have to take this bad boy all around the southern tip of Africa. Hopefully there are no Somali pirates that will overtake this ship. The added amount of danger is probably going to cause the prices of those things on those ships to go up a little bit.
Well, the added amount of money it's going to take for fuel to get them all the way down around the Cape.
Yeah, it's going to be pricey. So hold on to your wallets. I think you're going to see that increase coming soon. Coming up in the next hour, Ashley Carpenter will be here, the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. We'll talk to her and get some information about those kind of things and what we can do to prevent it. This is The Watchdog.
That was just a dream. That was just a dream. That's
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packard. Minutes ago, President Biden announcing that 90% of the adult U.S. population will be eligible for a COVID-19 vaccination, and 90% will have a vaccination site within 5 miles of home by April 19th.
Our work is far from over. The war against COVID-19 is far from won. This is deadly serious.
And the CDC director concerned about an uptick in cases.
The U.S. is now averaging more than 60,000 new coronavirus infections each day. That's an increase of more than 10.5% in the last week. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said she has a feeling of impending doom.
We have so much to look forward to, so much promise and potential of where we are, and so much reason for hope. But right now, I'm scared.
She says she's asking people to hold on just a little longer.
We are just almost there, but not quite yet.
Dr. Walensky blamed the surge in cases on increased travel, relaxed restrictions, and new variants of the virus. Brian Clark, ABC News.
In Minneapolis, the trial of Derek Chauvin, the former police officer charged in George Floyd's death, is underway. Opening statements concluded, and the first witness, Jenna Lee Scurry, is on the stand right now. She's a 911 dispatcher who saw the incident with Chauvin's knee on Floyd's neck unfold on a police surveillance camera.
My instincts were telling me that something's wrong. Something is not right. I don't know what, but something wasn't right.
The defense now getting their chance to cross-examine. At today's White House press briefing, Press Secretary Jen Psaki talking infrastructure and other big administration priorities.
The president will be laying out the first of two equally critical packages to rebuild our economy and create better paying jobs for American workers. He'll talk this week about investments we need to make in domestic manufacturing, R&D, the caregiving economy, and infrastructure.
That massive cargo ship that had blocked the Suez Canal for nearly a week has been dislodged, loading again. You're listening to ABC News.
Hello, good neighbor. Pat Boone here. You know, for years I've been warning Americans about the secret war on cash by big government, targeting your money and your privacy. Now, recent reports confirm that some banks are refusing to cash checks, and cash is being confiscated from innocent citizens. I'm serious. It's truly shocking. The folks at Swiss America have detailed all the dirty little government secrets in their free report, The Secret War on Cash, and it's available now by calling 800-289-2646. Why don't you write that down? 800-289-2646, because time's running out to take action. Don't become the next victim in this battle. Get The Secret War on Cash. Call 800-289-2646, and be sure to tell them Pat Boone gave you this number, 800-289-2646.
The federal moratorium on evictions will now last through June.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky signed the order today extending the moratorium on evictions until June 30th. The relief for renters struggling to pay their rent was put in place last year because of the pandemic and was expected to expire on Wednesday. But the CDC says Dr. Walensky signed the extension because evictions of tenants could be detrimental to public health control measures to slow the spread of COVID-19. Faith Abube, ABC News, Washington.
As more people get the COVID-19 vaccine, one state coming up with a way to get back to a more normal way of life. ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
New York State is launching an app allowing New Yorkers to prove they've been vaccinated or recently tested negative for COVID. It's called Excelsior Pass. Businesses and venues like Madison Square Garden will be able to scan the QR code in the app and verify your results. Now, when scanned, state officials say none of your personal information will be revealed, but it will show whether your pass is valid, not valid, or expired. And it's completely voluntary.
Excelsior Pass will expand to smaller arts, entertainment, and event venues starting next month. Sarah Obama, the matriarch of former President Obama's family in Kenya, has died. Known as Mama Sarah, the step-grandmother of the former president, promoted education for girls and orphans in her village. Family members say she died in a hospital. She was 99 years old. This is ABC News.
What do you get when you talk to a Dell Technologies advisor? You get someone who understands there's an art to listening. Who's able to hear more than what's being said and can provide tailored small business solutions that make you feel truly heard.
I understand. Let's get started.
For advice on everything from laptops to the cloud and solutions powered by Intel vPro platform, call an advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL.
Dave Packer, ABC News.
This is ONN.
Ohioans between the ages of 16 and 39 are eligible for the first time today to receive a coronavirus vaccine, but those under 18 have some special considerations to keep in mind. Tino Ramos from affiliate station WBNS-TV in Columbus reports.
Those 16 and 17 years old can only receive the Pfizer vaccine, and they must have a parent's consent. And for the younger crowd, well, the parents seeking vaccination sites to meet their needs, there are options, including the Ohio Department of Health's Get the Shot portal hospital. Parents there can search for locations to get certain vaccines. And according to health officials, they say keep trying until you get that appointment.
And Ohio's Asian American community spoke out over the weekend against comments by Lieutenant Governor John Husted that they say encouraged hate against Asian Americans. Karina Nova has more.
This controversy started when Husted shared an article citing unverified statements that COVID-19 leaked from a Chinese lab. In the tweet, Husted wrote, "So it appears it was the Wuhan virus after all." After heavy criticism of being insensitive, the lieutenant governor responded with this, saying, "To be clear, the tweet above referred only to the Chinese government." We asked Governor Mike DeWine his thoughts on this. His office told us on Sunday the lieutenant governor's response and series of tweets speak for themselves.
Karina Nova, ONN News.
And I'm Daniel Barnett on the Ohio News Network.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
Live and local talk is just around the corner. Stay right here on The Watchdog.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
Wheeling Coin and Hobby on 10th Street in Wheeling, next to the Bridge Tavern in downtown Wheeling, wants to buy any and all unwanted gold and silver jewelry. They are paying top dollar for 10, 14, 18, and 22 karat gold plus 925 sterling silver. They also want to buy collectible coins and paper money from before 1933. Wheeling Coin and Hobby is open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Coin and Hobby, 304-232-8430, and add them on Facebook.
Hello everyone, from the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker Darnell Foster with a look at your local weather forecast for your Monday. Clouds breaking for sunshine through the afternoon, breezy, a high near 56. Overnight low of 40 degrees under mainly clear skies. You'll see mostly sunny skies for your Tuesday with highs in the low 70s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors. Keeping it real for the right, keeping it real for the left. 100% real talk is right here. Real Big Talk continues. Now on The Watchdog, here's Big Rick.
Set it up. That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight. Losing my religion. Trying to keep up with you. And I don't know if I can do it. Oh no, I said.
Welcome back to The Watchdog, 10 minutes after 3, Monday afternoon. And one of the things that we do on this show, And honestly, it's not easy on anybody, whether it be myself, the guest, and sometimes you. We talk about difficult subjects here, and because they need to be talked about. And it's important to get an education on some of these things, because if we don't know what we're looking for, we don't know what we're seeing, or we know somebody who may be trapped in some of these situations we've talked about, we need to know what to do. So welcome to the show, Ashley Carpenter. She is the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. And again, this is going to be a heavy conversation because of the subject matter. However, if we don't have conversations like this, we don't learn. We don't know what to look for. We don't know how to help. And honestly, just in our discussion earlier today and just right now, you've used terms that I've never even heard. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal, because if you are ignorant to a subject, whether you choose to be or just happen to be, then you really won't know what's happening. You won't know how to describe something or what it's called. And that really is what leads to action, is the understanding.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for having me on here. We don't know what we don't know until we know it, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate too, because sometimes when you find it out, it's too late.
Right, and sexual violence is one of those hard conversations, because society kind of makes intimate sex this very secretive situation. So it's very easy to exploit individuals if we can't openly have a conversation about the good, the bad, and the indifferent.
Not to add a lighter subject to this, because it's not. It was very heavy. But one of the things that I think will be brought into light here over the weekend, I think it was Netflix that actually just put out a documentary on Tina Turner, who is it's fantastic. I watched it Saturday night. And the first part of this documentary, the first hour of it, is a story about how the abuse between Ike and Tina Turner hasn't been a secret since 1981. But to hear it come from her and talk about it and see some of the images, I think that's part of what we don't realize is these people went out on a stage every night and pretended like everything was fine. And I bet a lot of victims find themselves in that process where you may be sexually assaulted, but the next day it's got to be a smile and move forward. I can't imagine how difficult that must be.
And I think that there's this, again, societal norms really shape how we have conversations, right? So individuals that go through abuse are also groomed for a really long period of time, maybe even a short time, but it's that opportunity to exploit individuals, to be able to exploit them, exploit their trust, right? So if you build this trusting relationship with individuals with the intent of harm, you use these methods of conversation of don't tell anyone, you will get in big trouble. And our society kind of wraps around that too. And we support what would potentially be that offender, that perpetrator, as opposed to really, finding, being believed in that victim kind of survivor thought process, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
So I think that there's a lot to be said with this fake facade that goes on with people that have experienced trauma in general, and then sexual violence, domestic violence, stalking, strangulation. I mean, it just keeps going on of what people experience, but they're just not able to feel comfortable enough to be in a world where the society has kind of deemed this as a situation that we don't want to talk about. We don't want to address it.
Well, it's a difficult conversation. Ashley Carpenter is here, the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center, and it is a difficult conversation. And I would imagine it's difficult for everyone to have, but I think if you're the victim, it's probably the most difficult conversation to have, because you're not. There's probably doubt. How did I get into this situation? Did I put myself in this situation? They probably, and this isn't just a thing for women either. I mean, men can be sexually assaulted too, and that's probably a whole different subject matter that we'll get to. But just talk about victim per se in this situation. There's probably a lot of questioning. How did this happen to me? Or did I bring this on myself? Or the pressure of another person, whether it be grooming or anything else, or threatening, this is my fault. There's probably a lot of self-blame.
There's a tremendous amount of emotions that people experience. And then when you put trauma into that, a trauma that makes, basically our brain computes as close to death, right? So will I be able to survive this particular moment? Will I be able to literally live outside of this? And so after that, there's a huge space and time where an individual can either get support to kind of wrap around them, which helps them kind of negotiate in their brain these emotions that they're having, whether it's blame, whether it's, self sabotage, whether it's why did this happen to me, all these questions. You can have the support initially, and that is helpful for someone to heal. And then there's other people that don't come forward and talk about it, take it to their grave, or have really non-supportive people around them that say, well, what did you do? Why did you go to that party? Why did you walk down that dark alley? Which are very stereotypical things that we think of, right? So this world kind of shapes us where we're like, okay, you have to do this stuff to keep yourself safe, right? So we're not really focusing on don't abuse people. We're focusing on what can you do in this unsafe world instead of trying to make the world a safer place. Does that make sense?
Is that an impossible dream? Because it feels like one. It feels like making the world a safer place right now is an overwhelming task. So to me, it would put emphasis on an individual to make themselves safer.
Yes, right. It is not, I can't be in this work believing that we can't get to a place of this.
You have to operate on positivity when you do a job like this.
Yeah, so, but I do think that it takes, especially right now, this world is full of so much turmoil and so much pain that we need to be able to heal in all these different facets. But I think if we go about it in a way to be able to right the wrongs or be able to address legislation, laws, things that kind of really systematically, build up our nation and our society's norms, I think we can find it to be a better, safer environment and not have to really kind of hone in on this, keep yourself safe, as opposed to let's keep everyone safe. How do we do that? How do we keep everyone safe? By educating, we don't want to see this violence. This is not appropriate behavior.
When you talk to victims of sexual assault, which I assume you have to do on a regular basis, what are some of those tips? I mean, you just said, well, I should have been walking down that alley, or I shouldn't have gone to that party. Once something is done, it can't be undone. But what are some of those things that you would say to those people to, I don't know if it's comfort, I don't know if it's tough love. I don't know. I mean, that's why we have the conversation. I really don't know. What do you say?
The first thing that comes right out of my mouth is that I believe you, because that's the one thing that they hear on a crazy amount of time through the whole entire process. Whether somebody wants to report it, go to law enforcement, go to trial, go that whole entire route, or if they choose not to, there's still always that feeling of nobody's going to believe me. Because again, when we talk about healthy sex, do we talk about it in the public light? No. Does it happen in the public light? Most of the time not, behind a closed door. Sure. So it's always that person's word against the other person. And the survivor of that particular thing knows that once I walk out of that room, who is going to believe me? So the first thing that I say is, I believe you, 110%. There is no questioning about what your experience is, because it is your experience. It is what you had to deal with. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is I am quiet. I just allow people to express what they want. And that's one of the best things about our program that we have, is that we don't have to convince the survivor of something, right? All we have to do is really listen and validate their feelings and say, this happened to you and it was really not okay. And I have a lot more words to say about that, but we'll say not okay. And then we kind of go from there and have these, but I would say 110%, it's I believe you. If you hear that, that makes a tremendous difference in a survivor's world.
Let's take a break. We're talking to Ashley Carpenter, the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. We're going to take a break, and I'm going to propose a tough question to you. And it's, again, I think something that is finding its way into popular culture, into our society, however you want to discuss it. And we'll keep going because difficult conversations have to happen, and they are welcome to happen here on The Watchdog.
Tomorrow on the Watchdog Morning Show, we'll be talking about COVID and coal and continuing coverage of the legislature in West Virginia, including the latest on the tax reform bills. Our D.C. reporter, Tom Squitieri, is in to bring us up to speed on all that's happening in the nation's capital. And we'll talk about delivery services for food, and are they helping small restaurants or have they become a burden? Lots more coming up tomorrow and every weekday. We begin at 7 o'clock right here.
Give your walls a new look and get 11% off all paint now at Menards. Zinsser Smart Coat is an advanced paint and primer in one. It features an ultra smooth coverage with an exceptionally washable finish. Pick up a gallon of flat paint for just $21.98 after 11% rebate. Get 11% off everything now at Menards. Good through April 3rd. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Plumbers and steam fitters Local 83 want to thank the owners and contractors of the Ohio Valley for using their locally trained workers to help build for the future. Local 83 helps design, fabricate, and build the gas infrastructure for the oil and gas industry here in the Ohio Valley. Plumbers and steam fitters Local 83 is 300 members strong and growing. They also do residential, commercial, and industrial work on both sides of the river. For more information, call Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 at 304-233-4445.
In a hurry and need to see a doctor? The Woodsdale Health Center and Walk-In Clinic is located across from Little Caesars on National Road. Open 7 to 7 Monday through Friday. Patients can receive primary care, treatment of minor illnesses and injuries, wellness visits and physicals. There's also a lab draw station open from 8 to noon weekdays. A division of Wheeling Hospital, the Woodsdale Health Center is led by family physician Dr. Michael Wilson. Call 304-234-1971. They'll take good care of you.
Oh, there's something so real about living local, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I'm loving living local. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Say I'm loving living local. WTRF is working for me. The Ohio Valley is where I love to be.
WKKX and WVLY voted coolest couple in their high school yearbook.
This is The Watchdog. I'm Big Rick. Lola is here, and so is our guest, Ashley Carpenter. She's the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. If you're just joining in, we were talking about what are the first things you say to a sexual assault victim, and your first one was, I believe you. And that is probably the foundation in which you have to start every single conversation, because I'm sure a lot of people find themselves questioning what even just happened to them. Mm-hmm. Now, what has happened, and we've seen it recently, and not a ton of it, but we have seen it more so than ever, there's a lot of victim blaming, but there also have been circumstances as of late where it turns out that the story wasn't completely true that had come out against certain people for certain reasons. And that has to be a difficult process, because your job is to believe people when they say something. In your experience, Ashley, has this ever come back and went, wait a minute, this isn't accurate? Because we really have, you and I just were talking, there's an entire movement, a hashtag Me Too movement that started, I guess, 2017, I guess it was the time frame. And things have changed dramatically since then. I think victims are often not blamed, or at least not blamed nearly as much as they once were. And people are being taken seriously with these allegations more so than ever. But sometimes they aren't accurate. How do you get to the bottom of those things?
So in my head, right, I come from a place of believing, and sometimes what is put on paper 30 times ends up not looking the same, right? So if I were to write a sentence and then give you the sentence and then write another sentence and give you the sentence, it might ultimately end up becoming jumbled in some form or fashion.
Sure.
And so one of the big things when you talk about what would be considered in our world a false report, right? I would venture to guess that that is significantly lower. There is a story to be told on that. We see about 2% of the overall. So we have to get this in context, right? So sexual violence is the most underreported crime. The most underreported crime, hands down, nationally, the world. So that's the least reported. And then out of just the reported ones that happen, 2% of those would be considered a false report. But not necessarily in a false report is that things in that story changed, right? So there's not this definitive, which again, society's norms say we need the CSI effect, right? We need to see, we need to see the proof. So when we talk about the proof, it might look jumbled as you move through this whole entire investigation on the lowest reported crime. So then we also have to take in consideration this trauma effect, right? So our brain is not equipped to deal with trauma, okay? We're deer in the headlights, basically. Our brain completely shuts down. And so then we get to this point where we're able to come forward and we're able to talk about what this trauma is. Doesn't matter if it's sexual violence or not, we have to almost put this puzzle piece together, right? Our brain has essentially been shattered and we're picking up these pieces. So when somebody comes up to a person immediately after this experience happened to them and asks them a bunch of questions, they're not going to remember anything, right? Sure. They're not going to remember things. It's not going to make sense to them. They're going to remember things that might be wrong, that might be right, that who knows? But it's their truth that they're telling, right? And then they sleep on it for a solid 2 nights, 3 sleep cycles. And then they get back to it and they're like, okay, well now I have more pieces of my puzzle that I can put together. But what I told that person initially was a red jacket turns out to be a green t-shirt. Or this lamp was in this particular area and then in the room it's not that. So when we talk about these false reports, air quotes, false reports, we have to take in consideration, one, is this their experience? Is this what they remember as their truth? 2, what other things in this world are making that person say, just kidding, it didn't happen? Because we see that a lot with children, right? So you have that coercive, that grooming, somebody that's super close to them, family members, guardians, parents that are abusing them, that puts this pressure on this kid to say, you better not say anything. And now that you have said something, we need to change it and you need to go back on your word. So then we have this, and we see it a lot with children. It happens with adults too. We see this backtracking of this story because I'm getting heat on the other side of things. Society is telling me this is not okay for me to be honest about this, what I remember to be honest, which might not necessarily be the whole truth because that's all I remember. So do you see what I'm saying? Like that false reporting I tend not to believe it because it doesn't make sense why someone has this experience and then chooses to not go back when there are so many other stressors that are being put on this particular person. And especially if we're talking about somebody in power, right? So if somebody that is perpetrating on this person is a person of power, well, then that adds a whole extra layer of let me go back on my word. Let me not say that this happened, because that is more traumatizing to deal with what's going to end up happening after I report this. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. We're talking to Ashley Carpenter, the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. How oftentimes in what is reported in sexual assault and sexual violence, how often is it? Maybe you give me a percentage or often or however you want to gauge it, but it seems to me that there's usually someone powerful over this. It probably is a fairly high number, is my guess, that these situations that happen, that you're reading, that you're dealing with, that you're helping with and coping with, oftentimes comes from people in power that have something over you, whether it's coercion or whatever. That probably is a high number, is it not?
It is a high number. I probably wouldn't be able to give you that statistic, but I would let you know that about 92% of perpetrators know their victims, right? So that in and of itself establishes trust, right?
Well, yeah, that's actually, and honestly, that's an extraordinarily high number. I wouldn't have imagined that number would be that high. Again, this is not something that I know a tremendous amount about, but that is an extraordinarily high number. So basically, this can be bred out of comfortability with another person.
And establishing trust, right? So we go back to this idea that a lot of people, it's kind of a hot word, hot topic, which is that grooming, right? So that grooming word of a perpetrator utilizing these skills and techniques to gain trusting relationships with somebody and then exploit them, right? So this grooming mechanisms happens along the spectrum, kids, adults, individuals later in life, and we are seeing this on such rapid amount is because they're going to establish that relationship, that trust with that person. They're honed in victim, right? They're the survivor of this. They're going to end up using this as a technique. And so 92%. And of course, there's statistics all over the place that might vary between the two, but for the most part, more often than not, you have built a trusting relationship with this person, which also can be a person in power. And most of the time, they would be a person in power if they've established that trust with you, right?
It sounds, it makes perfect sense. This may be something that you have numbers on or don't. What are the numbers in West Virginia compared to nationally? Because I feel like, and I hate to say it this way, I feel like I have walked through different places, malls, grocery stores, been in restaurants and things like that, where I get a terrible sense that someone is probably either there against their will or just really unhappy to be in the relationship or position that they're in. And I hate to say it, but I've seen it a lot around this state. And that's just say I spend the most time here, but are the numbers average, accurate, underreported to the point where West Virginia is higher, lower?
So, right, most underreported. Okay, so we always have to kind of wrap our head around the fact that people are not reporting this, and that if we were to get a true accurate representation of this, it would be far more significant and the statistics would be a lot shorter, right? So nationally, we're at 1 in 6 women will experience some sort of sexual violence within their lifetime. That's the national, and West Virginia hits right there. As far as national with men, they are 1 in 33, and then West Virginia is 1 in 21 men. So, but again, you want to talk about these society stressors that I keep pushing down. Masculinity and men coming forward and expressing that they've been a victim of sexual violence is far less likely, right? So again, it's super underreported because males are not going to come forward and say, this is what happened to me. They don't feel comfortable with that. Society has made it like, you're the man, you need to deal with this kind of thing, this idea of it. So 1 in 21 in West Virginia, and then if you want to talk about kids, it's 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. So we're seeing this on such a rapid level, although it is still the most underreported crime that we have.
That is absolutely unbelievable to me. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back. I've got some more questions about this, especially on the topic of males, because I don't see what happens behind closed doors, but you can certainly tell that there are men that go through this that absolutely wouldn't say a thing about it. We'll talk about it coming up here with more with Ashley Carpenter on The Watchdog.
A productive weekend for the Mountaineers. Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Caridi. That story coming up on today's Mountaineer Report.
Did you know that 1 in 8 Americans struggle with hunger? Yet more than 40% of the food we produce is thrown out. At Kroger, we know we can do something about this. We're donating more food to local food banks through our partnership with Feeding America. And we're working with World Wildlife Fund to end food waste. But we can't do it alone, and we hope you'll join us in creating a world with zero hunger and zero waste. Visit thekrogerco.com to learn how you can help.
Love getting prices that are lower than low on backyard favorites like grill-ready hamburgers and fresh-picked strawberries? Then shop at Kroger. We give you more ways to save on the fresh you love with tools like the Kroger app, where you can find personalized coupons on top of weekly sales. Plus, rewards like fuel points, giving you prices that are lower than the everyday low. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
It was both a busy and a productive weekend for Mountaineer sports teams. WVU's baseball team opened up its Big 12 conference portion of the schedule, winning 2 out of 3 games over the Jayhawks of Kansas. After beating KU on Friday night, the two teams played both of their games on Saturday due to inclement weather coming in on Sunday. West Virginia lost that first game on Saturday 9-2, then rolled 15-2 in a 7-inning victory to win the series on Saturday evening. West Virginia was led by right-handed pitcher Carlson Reed. He's a freshman and he earned the win in game number 2. West Virginia's 15 runs in that contest were the most they've scored in a game this season. In fact, it goes all the way back to February the 18th of last year when they had a 15-8 victory over the Golden Griffins of Canisius. West Virginia has a big challenge ahead of it now this week, a 3-game series against number 17 Oklahoma State in Stillwater. Meanwhile, the WVU women's soccer team, a huge victory over the weekend. WVU women are ranked number 7. They knocked off number 5 Duke. Score was 3-2. 3 different Mountaineers scored for West Virginia. The Mountaineers are now 9-2 overall. Alina Stahl was credited with the game-winning goal. West Virginia now will have a matchup against the University of Virginia. That'll be coming up on Saturday. And finally, from the NCAA basketball tournament, the Baylor Bears in action tonight, the lone remaining Big 12 team, as Baylor takes on number 3 seed Arkansas. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield. IMG.
This is your VSIN action update on the Watchdog. Simple Green is perfect for making your auto, RV, cycling, boating, and other sporting equipment look like new. Visit them at simplegreen.com.
The Pittsburgh Penguins in action today against the New York Islanders at the PPG Paints Arena. Both teams minus 110 of the money line, 5.5 over the total. Pittsburgh third of the East Division, 2 points behind the second place Islanders. Islanders with 48 points. Pittsburgh with 46 points. Flyers $1.90 favorite of the Buffalo Sabres plus 170. 600 the total at the KeyBank Center. NCAA Tournament Elite 8 today. The Baylor Bears a 7.5 point favorite over Arkansas. 148.5 the total. While Houston lays 7.5 against Oregon State. The total 129. For VSIN.com, I'm Mike Sennett on the Watchdog.
Does this current crisis leave you wondering how to pay your bills? Well, a lot of people are struggling right now. I'm attorney Tom McIntyre. Call me today to schedule your telephone or video conference meeting, and I will send you a copy of my new book about bankruptcy, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Call 877-456-4155. Together, we will figure out what to do now and what to do when this is over. We will get through this together.
Hey, I'm going to the kitchen. Can I grab you a Coors Light?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Huh. I never knew there was a zip line in my fridge. Hey, buddy! Yeah! You got 2 Coors Lights up there? You got it!
Always brewed down to 34 degrees. With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time.
Here you go. 2 Coors Lights.
Awesome, man. Wow, these are really cold.
That's the only way I deliver it.
Sure. I mean, you being a mountain climber and all?
Yep.
You probably need a pretty warm coat in there, huh?
Yep.
Hey, Ben!
Yeah!
Ask him if he has any nachos!
You got any nachos in there?
No.
Just icy cold Coors Light?
Yep.
That makes sense. It is the Rockies.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
April 1st, a day for pranks, jokes, and of course, a Nailers hockey game and Easter egg hunt for kids and adults. Find all the eggs for a chance to win merchandise, gift cards, and a golden egg with 10 free tickets for the West Virginia Lottery Powerball Suite. Sponsored by Generations, Healthy Vibes for You, and Tito's Sloppy Dogs. Get tickets for the April 1st Nailers Easter egg hunt at West Banco Arena. Game time 7:10. Call 304-234-GOAL or visit WheelingNailers.com. This is Nail City.
The Variety Show with Bill DeFabio is live on the Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We talk to some of the region's best business owners while keeping you informed about area events and happenings. You won't believe who I have on next. Tune in and get with the program. Guests from preachers to pros and even some Super Bowl champions. Join me, Bill DeFabio, from noon to 2 for the Variety Show on the Watchdog.
Here come the jesters, 1, 2, 3. It's all part of my fantasy. I love the music and I love to see the crowd dancing in my eyes and singing out loud. Here come the dancers, one by one. Your mama's calling, but you're having fun. You'll find your dancing on number 9.
Welcome back to the Watchdog. I'm Big Rick. Lola is here, and so is our guest, Ashley Carpenter, the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. And again, we're having tough conversations, but conversations that need to be had. If you have questions about this, I encourage you to give us a call, 304-214-1600. 304-214-1600. This is how we learn. This is how we find things out. And before we went to the break, we were talking about sexual assault to men. And I asked you off the air, and I think it's kind of important to understand the spectrum of this, because we hear, and I hate to say it this way, but again, this is an uneducated person on the matter seeing what they see and then thinking that's all that it is or what it is. When I think sexual violence, I immediately go to Law and Order SVU. I mean, I do. Look, culture only teaches us, popular culture or the Times, whatever you want to call it, only teaches us so much, and oftentimes we learn what we think to be true from television, movies, and things like that. So when I see these words, I think of Olivia Benson and Stabler. I mean, I know. Again, I'm not trying to sound like an idiot here, but I know that I do. And that's okay, because it's an honest idiot. That I don't know where the spectrum starts and it begins. So I'd like for you, if you would, to repeat what you said to me while we were in the break, because I don't think some people get how the range of it can be perceived. I mean, again, it's not right to just assume it's the things that you see on SVU. And I guess that's kind of what I'm asking.
Right, yeah. So first and foremost, when we talk about these spectrums, right, it's really the perception of the person. So someone that comes to my office might experience one form of sexual violence, the other one might everyone's different, they experience something different. And no matter what this spectrum is, it's their own. So things can be incredibly traumatizing if what society, air quotes again, makes people feel like it is. And one of those things is law, right? So law creates this spectrum. So we have this, first degree sexual assault, which is the extreme version of, weapons and intrusion and all these extra things, right? So people think it's the worst. That's your CSI, right? You see that, right?
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, that's, again, the only place where I'd go, oh, that's what that is.
Right.
And it's not that case at all.
Right, so you have that spectrum, and then you have what in law would be considered that lower spectrum, right? Because it has less time in jail, less penalties, right? If somebody gets caught. And that's like catcalling, workplace sexual harassment, when somebody is continuing to make these, crude gestures towards an individual, and that person say, hey, look, I'm not okay with that, or stop, or just it's not appropriate in this particular space, or no, I'm not interested in you, and continues that would be called that sexual harassment part. And then, of course, stalking, right? So stalking is also another piece of it, which somebody might say, oh, this person sent you roses to your doorstep, and that, the society's like, that's nice. Like, why you have a problem with that? Well, if that was the last thing that person, if that perpetrator said was that the day that you get roses on your front door is a day that I'm going to kill you, that creates a whole different world, right? But again, that spectrum is placed with law and society norms. All of that creates like, what is the worst case scenario? So then you also then have that victim blaming, right? That goes right into it. And it says, well, it could have been worse. Well, no, not in my world, not in my experience. In my experience, this is worse. I'm not okay with it. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not okay with workplace harassment. I'm not okay with being sexually assaulted. I'm not okay with any of this violence, but it's my own interpretation of the severity in my world. But everybody plays that role. And again, when we were talking about coming a place from a believing and having a support system, it doesn't matter what spectrum you're on based on the air quotes law. It is how that person is responding, reacting. How does that person feel about what they just experienced? Because that's their spectrum. And everybody's spectrum is different. So if we come from a place of saying, that is terrible, that is a horrible experience, I am so sorry that you had to go through that, as opposed to, well, it could have been worse, or when I was younger, this is what happened to me. It's your own spectrum.
Sure. No, I will ask this question too, and again, it's coming from the right place, as we're talking to Ashley Carpenter, director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. From a man's perspective, it is hard to understand or know what will be misconstrued as I'm legitimately interested in you and I'd like to take you out on a date, to where that is perceived now. Because years ago, and again, I'm someone who's asked people on dates before, it never felt like I was doing anything wrong, and ultimately nothing ever went wrong with it. I mean, it's not that everybody said yes, it's just that if someone says, yeah, I'm not interested, it maybe takes a swipe at your pride, but you move on. And I get that not everybody does that. I'm talking about just people meeting people these days. I have seen this go terribly wrong for people who had nothing but the best of intentions. It's hard to know how to, and this isn't just someone of the opposite sex. At this point, this is relationships across the board. It's 2021. Men ask out other men, women ask out other women, and it goes beyond that. Mm-hmm. But to know how to approach somebody from where you think is coming from the right place, or whether it's somebody that, I'm interested in this person, I'm going to bake them cookies, or I'm going to buy them flowers. Sometimes, man, that goes just really south. Mm-hmm. There's no pamphlet or guide on how to talk to people these days. And I can appreciate, more so than ever before in my life, what women go through. And maybe it's just because we've started the show and we're 3 months into it, and I've had a lot of conversations about sexual harassment. I've had Lori in here, I've had Jenna in here, and we've talked about women's issues. I can't imagine how difficult that is. And I do think it is easier for men, just straight up, but I know that there's also issues with that too. And honestly, I've experienced this once in my life too. So, and I'll even tell you about it here, but I want you to answer my question. How do you know what to do? How do you know what's over the line now that maybe didn't used to feel over the line? Because some people just really don't get that.
Well, so the first thing that I would say is that most of our conversation that we have, most conversations that humans have in general are nonverbals, right? Like that's how we communicate. Sure. So you can essentially sense already feelings between, standing in front of someone and how their demeanor is, how they respond. So watching nonverbals is like really kind of key. That's helpful.
You're right, but we don't live in a society that's necessarily in front of each other these days.
Right. And so then the next thing is consent is an enthusiastic yes. Consent is an enthusiastic yes, every single step of the way. So there is this thing, which I encourage everybody listening, and you definitely, go online.
You look at me like...
Yeah, go online. Do definitely.
Yes,
no, but
definitely.
go online because it's a great little video, and it makes perfect sense. It's called Consent with Tea. And it explains how you wouldn't force someone to have tea under these specific circumstances, right? So, and it makes it very simple to like understand that like it's almost as easy as giving someone tea. Like you wouldn't make somebody drink tea, right? So definitely encourage anyone to watch that video because it's super quick, it's super great, and it makes sense. But consent is an enthusiastic yes every single step of the way. So if you are interested in someone and you approach that person and you say lines that you were taught or whatever the case is, if that's reciprocated in a enthusiastic yes, I will banter with you back and forth, we can have a conversation, then we know that we're there. Okay, so there is that interest. And then the next step would be something else, right? A hug or physical contact or a handshake or something like that. If that, again, that person is enthusiastically saying yes, then that's consent for them. They're okay with that. Once they get to a point that they're like, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not feeling kissing on the first date, right? I'm not okay with that. That is not an enthusiastic yes. That is where you stop, right?
Sure.
So it sounds simpler, obviously, than it is, but it really is that simple. It is an enthusiastic yes every single step of the way. And if we get that into our heads, then if somebody says, hey, I'm not interested, or no, I don't want to drink from you, or this or that, however they say it, you know, enthusiastic yes, that wasn't there. I'm good. And you move on.
We're talking to Ashley Carpenter, the director of the Upper Ohio Valley. We got a few minutes left in the hour to ask some of these questions. You hear the term sexual assault, and we've talked about a little bit what that can mean in the different spectrums and things like that. How much of this happens online? I know that sounds weird because sexual assault sounds like it's something that has to happen to you physically, but this can happen online. And that's where we are. I mean, not only pandemic related, but just in 2021. So much happens online that used to have to happen in person.
Yeah.
This is probably a big issue.
Yeah, so in April is our Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so all month. And the motto for this current year is we can build safe online spaces. Right? So it is happening. There is sharing of information. There is sharing of pictures. There's unsolicited. There is also grooming that's happening through, again, children, adults, the same thing, where you're utilizing these grooming techniques. There's obviously falsifying usernames. I mean, and there's so many apps and technology, little pieces out there that connect people to each other in this virtual platform, but you don't know who's on the other end. Like, you really don't know who's on the other end. You want to believe that that person's telling you the truth, but you don't know. So it's definitely happening in all spectrums, in all places, and definitely in that cyberspace world.
Okay. Okay, so sorry about that, just making sure that we had enough time. So let's say, I would imagine that is very difficult, and I would imagine that is an easy breeding ground for grooming, because it can absolutely start there. I mean, in my own personal experience, I have two little nieces that mean the world to me. They're 9 and 7, and I am so afraid of them using the internet. And I shouldn't, I hate that I'm afraid of it. I hate that I'm afraid of it.
Yeah.
But and now they can video chat with me, which is my favorite thing in the world. They, and they call, sometimes they call during the show and I can't answer it, but the time they're not so great with, but the fact that they make time to call Uncle Rick is wonderful. And I was talking to my niece the other night, and she has her own phone, and she has I guess there's a video chat app for kids. You know, they can send stickers and stuff, no pictures, no videos, stuff like that. And I think it's adorable. But then I also, as I hung up the phone the other night, I realized this is, on the other end of this, in probably way sooner than I can even comprehend, there's going to be a boy. And this is something that I didn't grow up with this kind of technology, so that was never a thing that we had. Now, she's never lived in a world without this technology. I am scared to death.
Yeah.
I'm scared to death. It's panic. It's not even just scared. I'm panicked because I want to prevent anything that I could prevent from happening to them. And I mean, obviously their parents do too, but it's just so easy. You're fighting, what you're fighting for is an incredibly worthwhile and necessary cause, but you're fighting a battle that is so uphill because there are so many directions to this. And that is just, to me, using the internet is the easiest invitation to start this process.
It is. And one of the biggest things is continuously educating our society, our community, our parents, our kids, our adults, educating individuals on this growing, issue. And so I think one of the biggest things is making sure that you're checking, obviously, those parent controls all the time. Check them all the time because they can get confused and there's all kinds of different rhythms, things. I'm not a techie person, but they can always get changed, right? So parents checking those all the time, limiting their access, and then also understanding what information they're sharing. Because it's very easy for me to go and find you on Facebook and probably figure out all the cool things that you like to do. So it'd be very easy for me to then message you privately and say, hey, oh my gosh, I like basketball too, so let's talk about it. So being mindful of what information you're sharing on the internet, and now it's even harder that you have to figure out which little tabs to switch back and forth because you don't know what information they're actually sharing. So just being cautious and mindful of what you're sharing out into the web world, and then those parent controls, and making it very apparent to kids and people that I have permission to check your spaces as a parent to a kid. I have permission to check this piece of equipment, this technology all the time. And I'm going to do that because I have a son and same exact thing. I'm terrified. And he has his little iPad and I'm like, okay, well, cool. Grandma TT can go ahead and, FaceTime, but who else can?
I can't. I'm overwhelmed and frustrated thinking about it now. In our last couple of minutes here with Ashley Carpenter, she's the director of the Upper Ohio Valley Sexual Assault Center. Let's talk prevention. What is it? What is the best way? We just obviously talked about the best prevention for kids and especially online. But what do we do if we feel like we see this happening and someone won't come forward? Because getting involved in someone else's business is not a fun concept, but sometimes you can tell that people are crying out for help but can't actually cry out for help.
Right. So I would definitely say if you see something that is red flaggy, I'm sure that we'll have all of our information up on your website. We are www.sexualassaulthelpcenter.com. So we have social media pages and everything. So if you have questions about those things, call us. We're free services. So if you go ahead and just have a couple of questions, know that if you're reporting a kid, we got steps we have to take. If you're reporting an individual that is an adult and not with a disability, then that person kind of has their own will and way of how they're going to go about doing it. There's national hotlines. There's all kinds of resources out there to have a conversation if you're seeing something happen. And then also, if there's an opportunity to engage in additional prevention services, like we have a ton, there's a bunch of nonprofit organizations, get with us and we can do some extra education for you. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Ashley. We do appreciate it. Reach out. If you need to, reach out. Figure it out. Help out. The resources are out there. We appreciate the conversation, and hopefully this engaged some people to really take the first step if they need this help. We will talk to you, I'm sure, again soon, and good luck with raising awareness in the month of April. We will be back with more on The Watchdog.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packard. Eligibility and location, two barriers for millions of Americans in getting the COVID-19 vaccine. President Biden with this directive today.
I'm directing my COVID team to ensure there is a vaccine site within 5 miles of 90% of all Americans by April the 19th.
The president also saying that at least 90% of American adults will be eligible to be vaccinated by that day. With coronavirus cases again on the increase in the U.S., the president sharing the concern of his COVID-19 task force that folks are letting their guard down too soon.
I'm reiterating my call for every governor, mayor, and local leader to maintain and reinstate the mask mandate. Please, this is not politics. Reinstate the mandate if you let it down.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky today.
I'm calling on every single one of you to sound the alarm, to carry these messages into your community and your spheres of influence. We do not have the luxury of inaction. For the health of our country, we must work together now to prevent a fourth surge.
Now to Minneapolis, the prosecution calling its second witness in the trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin in George Floyd's death. ABC's Mark Remillard takes a look at what we saw from the defense's opening statements.
Chauvin's attorney Eric Nelson appealing to the jury's common sense, countering the prosecution's opening statements by saying there are always two sides to a story. Nelson focused on Floyd's drug abuse, telling the jury there's another explanation for Floyd's death.
The evidence will show that Mr. Floyd died of a cardiac arrhythmia that occurred as a result of hypertension, his coronary disease, the ingestion of methamphetamine and fentanyl.
The cause and manner of Floyd's death is expected to be a key issue during this trial. Mark Remillard, ABC News, Minneapolis.
At the close on Wall Street, the Dow up 99 points. You're listening to ABC News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/work. That's ZipRecruiter.com/work. ZipRecruiter.com/work.
Once more to COVID vaccinations, and in the nation's second most populous state, they're going into hyperdrive.
Opening up vaccinations to any Texan over 16 coincides with the arrival of 1 million more doses of the drug. But El Paso Fire Chief Mario D'Agostino, who's in charge of distributing vaccines, says each is still considered precious.
We don't actually draw the doses until people are on site. So we haven't had to waste any vaccines because somebody didn't show up.
Even with the lifting of eligibility guidelines, a recent survey suggests that vaccine hesitancy is still an issue, with only about half of all Texans firmly saying they intend to get the shot. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Airline travel now reaching pre-pandemic levels.
TSA screened the most passengers this past weekend since March 12th of last year, right before the pandemic halted travel. 1.57 million passengers passed through security checkpoints Sunday. Airlines are seeing bookings increase close to 2019 levels and are anticipating even more Americans to take to the skies. Lionel Moise, ABC News.
Potential problems with passenger-side airbags are forcing Volkswagen to recall about 150,000 Audi cars. The recall affects Audi A3 cars built between 2015 and 2020. Reports say that the airbags may be switched off even if someone's sitting in the passenger seat. Audi says it will notify owners about the problem starting in May. This is ABC News.
If the new Oral-B IO electric toothbrush had a theme song, this would be it.
I think you're gonna wanna see this.
Oh, you're gonna want to see it, all right. Only IO technology combines Oral-B's dentist-inspired round brush head with gentle micro vibrations for a clean that'll
Make you say wow.
Exactly. Get the wow of a professional clean feel every day with the new Oral-B IO.
You're gonna see what everybody's talking about.
Oral-B. Brush like a pro.
Dave Packer, ABC News.
This is ONN.
Ohioans between the ages of 16 and 39 are eligible for the first time today to receive a coronavirus vaccine, but those under 18 have some special considerations to keep in mind. Tino Ramos from affiliate station WBNS-TV in Columbus reports.
Those 16 and 17 years old can only receive the Pfizer vaccine, and they must have a parent's consent. And for the younger crowd, well, the parents seeking vaccination sites to meet their needs, there are options, including the Ohio Department of Health's Get the Shot portal. Parents there can search for locations to get certain vaccines. And according to health officials, they say keep trying until you get that appointment.
And Ohio's Asian American community spoke out over the weekend against comments by Lieutenant Governor John Husted that they say encouraged hate against Asian Americans. Karina Nova has more.
This controversy started when Husted shared an article citing unverified statements that COVID-19 leaked from a Chinese lab. In the tweet, Husted wrote, "So it appears it was the Wuhan virus after all." After heavy criticism of being insensitive, the lieutenant governor responded with this, saying, "To be clear, the tweet above referred only to the Chinese government." We asked Governor Mike DeWine his thoughts on this. His office told us on Sunday the lieutenant governor's response and series of tweets speak for themselves.
Karina Nova, ONN News.
And I'm Daniel Barnett on the Ohio News Network.
Hello, it's John Kozik, founder and president of TurboTrack Realty, and I buy houses as is, fast for cash. Call me today for an all-cash offer on any of your properties, and we can close within days at 614-362-2000, 362-2000. Do you own a property that's outdated and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, I'll buy it. I'm a private real estate investor who can solve your real estate problems fast for cash. Do you want to sell and just be done with it? Okay, great. I buy vacant properties, boarded up houses, pre-foreclosures, and inherited properties. I also buy apartment buildings, rental portfolios, divorce homes. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. I look forward to solving your real estate problems today. Give me a call for an all-cash offer at 614-362-2000, 614-362-2000.
The best in live and local talk returns momentarily on The Watchdog.
Babies come with lots of decisions. Cloth or disposable? Crib or bassinet? So when it comes to protection, go with the safest, most effective choice, vaccination. Get all the recommended vaccines for your baby by age 2 to protect your child against 14 serious childhood diseases. For more reasons to vaccinate, talk to your child's doctor. Go to cdc.gov/vaccines or call 800-CDC-INFO. A message from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
I'm not buying till I checked on Ford.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doan Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doan Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doan Ford. Online at DoanFord.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doan Ford.
Are you or your loved ones facing a serious legal battle? The law office of Paul Harris wants you to know you aren't alone. Do you need someone that's not afraid to go to trial and fight for your rights? Attorney Paul Harris and his team are willing to go where most firms are not. The Courtroom. With a successful track record in civil litigation, criminal defense, including tax issues and healthcare fraud, Harris Law Office will fight for their clients by offering the most aggressive representation in and out of court. Call Paul Harris at Harris Law Office for a free consultation. 304-232-5300.
April 1st, a day for pranks, jokes, and of course, a Nailers hockey game. And Easter egg hunt for kids and adults. Find all the eggs for a chance to win merchandise, gift cards, and a golden egg with 10 free tickets for the West Virginia Lottery Powerball Suite. Sponsored by Generations, Healthy Vibes for You, and Tito's Sloppy Dogs. Get tickets for the April 1st Nailers Easter egg hunt at West Banco Arena. Game time 7:10. Call 304-234-GOAL or visit WheelingNailers.com. This is Nail City.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm the Storm Tracker Darnell Foster with a look at your local weather forecast for your Monday. Clouds breaking for sunshine through the afternoon, breezy, a high near 56. Overnight low of 40 degrees under mainly clear skies. You'll see mostly sunny skies for your Tuesday with highs in the low 70s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors. He can talk up and down Route 2 and Route 7 at the same time. Just ask him. Keeping it real for your ride home. It's Real Big Talk with Big Rick on the Watchdog.
Sugar magnolia, blossoms blooming, that's all empty and I don't care. So my baby down by the river, wishing I could come up silver there. Sweet blossom, come on, under the willow, we can have high time.
Sugar Magnolia, it's the Grateful Dead. This is the Watchdog. I'm Big Rick, that's Lola. Real Big Talk continues. Heavy stuff, but again, stuff you need to know about. Coming up in April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So seriously, if you need to ask any questions about those types of things, or you're a victim yourself, reach out. I can't believe it is the most underreported crime. That's terrible to think about. That is terrible to think about. We're going to move to a different subject, and maybe on a little bit of a lighter side. We'll talk about Satan. I know that doesn't seem like a lighter side, but it's not quite as bad as it sounds. Rapper Lil Nas X, who you probably don't care about, but you have definitely somewhere been exposed to the song Old Town Road. I mean, it was there more of an earworm than that song a couple years ago? I mean, it was him and Billy Ray Cyrus, I believe, that made Old Town Road, which is weird because the beat originally, and actually won a Grammy for it, was Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails. You want to play 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon Separation. How did you get Grammys to Lil Nas X, Old Town Road with Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails? But that's actually how it happened. Well, he's moved on from that and is trying to not be a one-hit wonder, and he released a new video. Again, not something you care about, I understand. Here's the part that you'll think is crazy. Lil Nas X released a shoe that was co-made by Nike. Did you see this story, Lola?
No.
Well, I mean, a lot of celebrities. Nike's not just for Michael Jordan anymore. A lot of celebrities have come out and made their own shoes. And an attempt to be, I guess, and this maybe is the shock value they're looking for, it's being talked about around America. Nike created these shoes with a drop of human blood in them. Now, we saw this before with Kiss in their comic books. Remember, each of the members of Kiss put vials of blood in the red ink that were used in the Kiss comic books, and it created quite a stir then, and I don't know if that's the attempt here by Nike and Lil Nas X, but it is not being received very well, as you can imagine. Guess how many they made of these shoes?
I have no idea.
666, just to make sure that they are called Air Satans, and that's what it is. The shoes, $1,018. $1,018
for these pair of Nikes. They sold out in record time, and it is creating quite a stir. So kind of what I wanted to talk about here, as I mentioned, well, do you remember the whole Kiss thing? The whole controversy with them putting the vials of blood into the comic book ink?
No, I do not. I must admit.
And that's okay. But
I must have missed that story.
Well, this was years ago. Obviously, Kiss has become the most commercial band of all time. And you know what? Financially, it worked out for them. They are doing just fine as they continue to age out. But yet, I'd go see them again. I'm looking forward to it. They're supposed to, David Lee Roth's supposed to open the show. You don't think I'll be right there? Crazy. But it is, they are not necessarily great songwriters or musicians. It's the show. Mm-hmm. What sold Kiss? The show, the controversy, the mothers groups outside of shows with signs that holding up, just absolute protests. In the movie Detroit Rock City, which was essentially about Kiss, but not necessarily, was the story of a couple kids that wanted to go see Kiss. It portrayed all of that pretty accurately. And we've seen, when it was Sympathy for the Devil with the Rolling Stones. When that, you want to talk about church groups, angry moms, nobody wanted anybody listening to Sympathy for the Devil. Is this brilliant by Nike or a misstep by Nike? I think it's brilliant. I think they're looking at things that have happened in history that they have tied to musicians. When you tie a musician to Satan, it gets a lot of press, whether you like it or you don't. And now I get it, in 2021, we have songs about all different things. Right now, one of the hottest songs in the world that's called WAP. I'm not going to tell you what it means. Look it up. Look it up. That's the extent we're going to talk about it. But it's not necessarily a pleasant, happy song. I think Nike is brilliant here. Nike backed Colin Kaepernick and created that commercial after so many people were mad at Colin Kaepernick. And what did they say, Lola? What did they say? I never buy Nike again.
I know.
Never buying it again. No
I'm
way.
never watching NFL football again.
Exactly. You know what happened? The NFL survived and Nike soared. Nike stock soared after that commercial, making Colin Kaepernick look like a hero. You can hate it. You can love it. I don't care. You're welcome to call and talk about it. You're always welcome to voice your opinion, 304-214-1600. But whatever side you fell on, when it came to that, Nike doubled down and made an Air Satan shoe with a drop of blood in it. They took Satan and blood, put it into one shoe, sold 666 pairs for $1,000 a piece. Right now, what do you think the aftermarket value on these shoes are? $5,000.
Oh my gosh.
Right now, $5,000. And that number is going to go higher. I promise you, because there are shoe collectors. I didn't realize this. If my buddy Kyle's listening, I bet he'll text or call. We were talking about this over the weekend. Not this particular story, but he lives near a specialty shoe store in the south side of Pittsburgh. And people line up. He goes to work very early, like 6 a.m. There are people, I guess they release shoes again. I'm not a sneaker head per se. That's what shoe enthusiasts are called. But he says there are people lined out at this store when he's walking over to work waiting for the new release of shoes. Well, it's not because they can't live without them. It's because they sell them immediately.
Yeah.
They sell them immediately. I have a friend in Parkersburg. I was just talking about him this weekend, not to him, but another friend of ours was telling me that every morning he gets up and goes to the Grand Central Mall in Parkersburg and buys whatever shipment comes in, men's, women's, kids, of the newest, latest, and limited editions. He quit his job because he's making so much money doing that and reselling PlayStations. Like, I guess the PlayStation 5 was the hot item for Christmas. It's still really hard to get. By the way, if you're looking for one, just know that some of the plastics that they use in electronics were on that stuck ship in the Suez Canal. So you ain't getting one anytime soon. The plastic for electronics, a big part of what's backed up in the Suez Canal. So if you're waiting, you're probably going to find a little scarcity, even more so than usual. But yeah, I think for Nike here, it's a double down effect. Nike doesn't care. They really don't care about the money per se. The idea that they could have sold these shoes for $5,000 a piece, they probably could have. That's not what they were looking for. They were looking for people to get mad, and they were looking for people to aftermarket sell them because it became the most trending thing on the internet. This is a brilliant marketing scheme. Sometimes when we see, I don't care if what happened to Dr. Seuss after the whole, Dr. Seuss isn't going to make these books because it makes everybody mad. Dr. Seuss sold out every book that was in print everywhere of those 3 or 6, whatever those books, how many, there's 6?
I think 6, yeah.
They're gone. You can't find them. And you know where they are? Aftermarket on eBay.
Yeah.
Wake up, everybody. These are marketing tactics. They're marketing tactics. They are meant to make you mad, drive you nuts, make you feel like the world's coming to an end. I can't believe it. Yes, believe it. You are being preyed upon by marketing geniuses. It's the same thing as every time we talk about going to the internet. You go to your social media sites, you're the product. You're still the product. Colin Kaepernick made more money after football off of you hating him than he ever could throwing a football to any human on the planet. Understand this. Understand this. So when your head gets hot and you're huffing and puffing and you're not buying Nikes, they just outsmarted everybody. Byproduct of this, and I just will get this in before we take this break, Trevor Lawrence, who is the perceived number 1 draft pick in the upcoming NFL draft, which comes up, I think, later this month, I guess, essentially, if we call this April, coming up here mid-April. What is going to happen is he is furious over these. I won't be shocked when he signs a Nike contract. He had to put out a big statement about being mad about little Nas X's shoes. Probably going to be a Nike guy himself. And just as a side note, since I brought up Trevor Lawrence, he has decided instead of going to the draft, which traditionally we've watched the number 1 draft pick hold up with Roger Goodell, hold up the jersey, he has decided to skip that, and he is going to watch the draft with some of his teammates at Clemson. So I think it's probably going to be the first time and last year, obviously, everything was virtual. They are going to actually hold the draft this year. He won't be there for when he is named the number 1 pick. I wonder if that's the first time that ever happened. Last year withstanding, the fact that the guy who is going to be number 1 won't be there to take the picture and get the jersey, which is usually what? Your very first trading card. I bet he has a side deal with someone else. Hey, I'm telling you, these kids aren't stupid. Well, they are finding the right people to make them the most amount of money because your first trading card is you with the jersey. Your rookie season. He either won't have it or will have it exclusively distributed by someone who isn't, that brings more money into him.
Where's he going?
Jacksonville. That's why they went out and got Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is a college-aged coach. So they wanted Trevor Lawrence to want to be there. I think they went out and got the coach that he wanted, which is Urban Meyer. Because think about it, Ohio State fans, how many times has Urban Meyer quit coaching football because of health issues? Utah, Florida, Ohio State. How much money did you have to pay him to be healthy? I'm telling you, that's exactly what's happening in Jacksonville. We'll take this break. We'll come back, get into more topics. This is The Watchdog.
The Variety Show with Bill DeFabio is live on The Watchdog Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We talk to some of the region's best business owners while keeping you informed about area events and happenings. You won't believe who I have on next. Tune in and get with the program. Guests from preachers to pros and even some Super Bowl champions. Join me, Bill DeFabio, from noon to 2 for The Variety Show on The Watchdog.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Washington County's largest gun show is back on Saturday and Sunday, April 10th and 11th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Washington County Fairgrounds. Admission is just $7 and kids under 12 get in free with an adult. Everyone is welcome. They offer free appraisals and have great prices on all types of firearms, modern, military, and antique. They have over 450 tables with cash buyers on site for your used guns. Visit arhsportshop.com or call 724-948-3571 for more information. That's 724-948-3571 for more information. That's Washington County Gun Show, presented by ARH Sports Shop, April 10th and 11th.
Oh, there's something so real about living local, and I know without a doubt I'm not alone. And I'm loving living local. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. Say I'm loving living local. WTRF is working for me. The Ohio Valley is where I love to be.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
You know, there's always that one team that ruins your bracket, and that's why you should bet the tournament on FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook app, because your first bet is risk-free. It doesn't matter whether you're betting a #1 seed team or a Cinderella team. New users get up to $1,000 back in site credit if your first bet doesn't win. And FanDuel has odds on all the action, games day and night, an easy-to-use app, multiple deposits, fast withdrawals, always on promotions, and more. And FanDuel wants to make you a millionaire. They're giving away $1 million to a lucky bettor. New and existing users get an additional shot at the payout every day you bet the tourney. So if you want a shot at becoming a millionaire or even a thousandaire, download FanDuel Sportsbook, use my name Monroe in the promo code box. You must be 21 or older, present in Pennsylvania or West Virginia. No purchase necessary. Restrictions apply for the $1 million drawing. Risk-free offer for first online real money wager only. Site credit non-withdrawable. Expires in 14 days. Restrictions do apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-GAMBLER.com.
Every weeknight at 6 p.m., join the voice of the Mountaineers, Tony Caridi, on The Watchdog. Tony informs and entertains WVU fans with the latest Mountaineer sports news. If it happens in the world of gold and blue, Tony knows about it and shares it with you. Sportsline, weeknights at 6 on The Watchdog.
Looking in your eyes, I see a paradise. This world that I found is too good to be true. Standing here beside you, want so much to give you this love in my heart that I'm feeling for you.
Them say we're crazy, I don't care about that. Put your hand in my hand, baby, don't ever look back. Let the world around us just fall apart. Baby, we can make it if we're heart to heart. And we can build this thing together, standing strong.
427 here in downtown Wheeling. This is The Watchdog. I'm Big Rick. That is Lola. And one of the things I guess we haven't overly talked about in the last week or so, but certainly worth talking about, is the voter rules in Georgia and some of the effects that they may have on other things. Here's, I guess, the easiest, simplest take I have on it. Handing a water to someone who's thirsty is a human act, but needing an ID to buy cigarettes, go to the post office and get your mail, your registered mail, those types of things. Needing an ID is a thing that I think makes sense. I mean, am I crazy to think that those two things don't go together? I get the idea of trying to suppress votes and saying, well, if there's long lines, if you don't want to stand in it and you can't hack it, you ain't getting free water. I don't get why that's a huge deal, but if you're trying to get people to get out of line, I guess it is. The idea of needing an ID to do just about everything. I mean, you can't even go to lunch when you're in college without your social security number. So there are things here that make sense and things that don't, and I think that's where everyone kind of hardlines that this is suppressing. Well, part of it is, and part of it is logical. I mean, needing an ID to do just about, I can't rent a car, I can't go cash a check. There's just, you need ID for things.
I think ID has been required. I mean, they just try to encompass everything. One thing that I find to be particularly awful is, first of all, the water, which that's just ridiculous.
A thirsty human deserves water. I don't care what state you're in or what their activity they're doing.
And if they can't provide for more efficient voting places so that they have lines that are an hour long,
some up to 3 hours.
Them.
Yeah.
But the other thing too that I really dislike is getting rid of the drop boxes. They're only going to have like one drop box per county, and that's just nitpicking, really. You know, this in a state where the governor and the Secretary of State and everybody else swore on a stack, defied the president.
In an actual phone call.
Yes.
That we heard.
Saying that this election was fair, there was no fraud, it was duly counted. How many times? 3, 4?
Yeah, they were at least 3 in Georgia.
This in a state that was waving the flag about how good their election process had been, then they swoop in and write some law like this. It defies logic. But it goes back to what that one somebody in Arizona went in front of the judge wanting to change voting laws. And he just came right out and said, well, if there is mail-in voting, Republicans will lose. That, flat out said it in court, If that's the case, then do better. Do better with your party platform. Do better with all of that, And I don't know what they're trying to do in Colorado. I know Colorado has been complete mail voting for years. But somehow they're on the little map where they're trying to change something in Colorado too. I don't know.
As someone who has a lot of, I don't know if it's a lot, but I certainly have conservative views on things. And that doesn't make me necessarily go out there and wave a Republican flag on every issue, because I think that's silly. I think that people decide that they're one thing or another completely, and be damned the issues that I don't know about or don't care about, because these are the two that I really stick with. I think that's silly. I think you have to look at your best options. But this is kind of embarrassing. It is. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, I get it that you want your party to win. I mean, that I get. But, I mean, to the point where this actually looks like the fix is in, I mean, seriously, I mean, to me, how is this any different than somebody trying to shave points in a basketball game? It's not. It's not. Let everybody that can legally vote should be able to. That's it. If you have an ID and you're registered to vote, vote. And yeah, it shouldn't take 3 hours to vote, but I tell you what, the fact that people are willing to stand there and exercise that right, let them. The whole water thing, I mean, we are the most petty country in the world. You can't give somebody water because they're waiting to vote. It's Georgia. It could be hot. I don't know. To me, the whole thing is absurd. And I will say this. I lived in North Carolina when the HB2 laws were a thing. And Pearl Jam canceled and Bruce Springsteen canceled all in that time where they were trying to, with these HB2 laws. So I've seen firsthand how that can affect the things that happen in your state when people get all up in arms about things that are happening. Now, if artists don't want to perform, again, that's their right. They can say, you know what, take your money back. I'm not playing in this state. Now, I don't know how that's played out for Pearl Jam and Bruce Springsteen since. I saw Pearl Jam in South Carolina, which is almost like another country. You want to talk about backwards. It's almost like another country. So, again, I don't know what that necessarily means, but when people get up in arms about things, especially laws in different states that they're not even in, they complain. And here's the latest push now. Organizations are demanding that Major League Baseball move their All-Star game out of the state of Georgia, and also the Masters. The Masters is Georgia. What? I get it. You don't like what's happening there. And maybe you care about golf and maybe you don't. The Masters isn't leaving Georgia. I got news for you. And I don't blame every human being in Georgia. I don't blame the restaurants that benefit from Major League Baseball playing their All-Star game there, the hotels that have housed the people that go to Augusta. Are you kidding me? Why do you want... Not every person should be made to suffer because you live somewhere else and you get outside your mind about laws you don't like. Do I think they're ridiculous? Yeah, I do. I think this is absolutely absurd. It's absurd. But do I think that an entire state has to suffer? People that work and live in that economy have to suffer because people don't like it? No. You know what? People don't like a lot of things in every place.
But once again, the way to affect change when you're dealing with anything, corporate, government, is to hit the bottom line.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right.
And I don't agree necessarily with boycotts and all that kind of stuff, but sometimes that's what it takes to make people listen.
No, you're right, but I just don't ever see it happen. Like, if you want to boycott, think about how many people were and continue to be mad at Chick-fil-A. They're not open on Sundays, and there have been different things said about the ownership and management of Chick-fil-A about how they're very Christian and conservative and things like that. Also, drive past the Chick-fil-A and see if you can get in the parking lot.
You can't.
You can't.
I know.
You can't. So, again, everybody getting mad about that, I'm calling for a boycott. It's not going to happen. Chick-fil-A didn't open up on Sundays. Hobby Lobby. Everybody was so mad at Hobby Lobby. Yet Hobby Lobby keeps buying other stores. They're obviously doing fine. I get it. You can be mad, but Major League Baseball and certainly the PGA are not afraid of you boycotting. They're going to play those games, those golf matches. They're going to play them in Georgia. It's not going to affect anybody. And to try to force the upper hand of two of the biggest sports organizations in the country, it's probably not going to work. Just saying. My 2 cents. We're going to head take our break. We'll be back with more on the Watchdog.
The Metro News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
West Virginia Metro News, I'm Jeff Jenkins. The House of Delegates sending an income tax reduction bill to the state Senate passed the House during the House floor session today, but House Speaker Roger Henshaw admits that this is probably not the final product.
I think there's probably a lot more work to be done in terms of how we make this leap if we do make it, whether that gets done this regular session or if it gets done at some point later in the year or somewhere down the road.
But Governor Jim Justice indicating today in his media briefing on the coronavirus that he wants this income tax deal done during the regular session of the legislature, and he urged residents of the state to talk to their lawmakers.
It is the single most important thing to the state of West Virginia that has ever been put before you. It is the single most important thing to you as individuals.
More on the income tax plan at WVMetroNews.com. Those in favor and those against speaking out today during a public hearing on a proposed resolution that could lead toward the reduction in the state property tax on business inventory. Kim Menke with Toyota says the current inventory tax makes it more difficult for the plant in Putnam County to compete for new projects within the company.
Basically penalizes capital investment and is an obstacle to overcoming competition amongst our plants.
More on that story also at our website. You're listening to Metro News, the voice of West Virginia. The Kanawha Charleston Health Department reports outbreaks of COVID-19 in 7 schools in the county, the most since the pandemic started. That report out today. 5 of those 7 schools are public schools, 41 COVID-19 cases among students, and 3 among staff members. Sunny skies this afternoon in the Mountain State. Temperatures in the 50s. Temperatures expected to soar into the 70s tomorrow in most of the state. From the Metro News Anchor Desk, I'm Jeff Jenkins.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash, powered by The Score on the Watchdog. I'm John Thayer. The Elite Eight is set in men's basketball tournament, and it begins tonight on CBS. Oregon State takes on Houston before Arkansas plays Baylor. Then tomorrow night, UCLA takes on Michigan on TBS, and in game number 2 on TBS, the top overall seed Gonzaga will play USC. The Women's Elite Eight also begins tonight on ESPN as Baylor takes on UConn and Indiana plays Arizona. Then tomorrow in the Elite Eight, it's Texas and South Carolina in Game 1, followed by Louisville and Stanford. The Frozen Four is set and includes 3 teams from the state of Minnesota. Minnesota State will play St. Cloud State, and Minnesota Duluth plays UMass April 8. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm John Thayer with the Sports Flash, powered by the Score on the Watchdog.
What's in store this week at Staples?
A big deal on ink. That's kind of a big deal.
Staples has the technology, furniture, and supplies you need for a totally productive workspace.
And right now, you can earn 40% back in Staples Rewards when you purchase any 2 ink or toner cartridges.
Shop in-store or get same-day delivery powered by Instacart.
Ends 3/27/21. Limit 4 in-store and on Instacart only. Visit staplesconnect.com/ink rewards for details. Instacart delivery subject to availability. Additional fees may apply.
At CDW, we get modern servers need to be flexible, scalable, and predictable. I predicted you'd say that.
Okay, what will I say next?
Probably something about server security.
Impressive and freaky. CDW can implement secure Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Gen 10 servers that improve speed and performance while reducing costs.
See, predictable.
IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it.
I predict a web address.
CDW.com/HPE.
Does your dog need groomed or walked? Are you looking for a pet sitter or dog boarding options? If so, call Dirty Paws, Wheeling's newest pet care service, providing the Ohio Valley with everyone's pet care needs. Check us out on Facebook at Dirty Paws WHG or call 304-639-7754.
I'm not buying till I checked on Ford.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doan Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doan Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doan Ford. Online at DoanFord.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doan Ford.
Are you or your loved ones facing a serious legal battle? The law office of Paul Harris wants you to know you aren't alone. Do you need someone that's not afraid to go to trial and fight for your rights? Attorney Paul Harris and his team are willing to go where most firms are not. The courtroom. With a successful track record in civil litigation, criminal defense, including tax issues and healthcare fraud, Harris Law Office will fight for their clients by offering the most aggressive representation in and out of court. Call Paul Harris at Harris Law Office for a free consultation. 304-232-5300.
April 1st, a day for pranks, jokes, and of course, a Nailers hockey game. And Easter egg hunt for kids and adults. Find all the eggs for a chance to win merchandise, gift cards, and a golden egg with 10 free tickets for the West Virginia Lottery Powerball Suite. Sponsored by Generations, Healthy Vibes for You, and Tito Sloppy Dogs. Get tickets for the April 1st Nailers Easter egg hunt at Westbanco Arena. Game time 7:10. Call 304-234-GOAL or visit WheelingNailers.com. This is Nail City.
Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands is the perfect place to relax after a long day. Happy hour from 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. Get $2 off appetizers, $3 off domestic drafts, and house wine specials. Quaker Steak and Lube, voted Best Wings USA. Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands with another steal of a deal. Get a steak burger and fries all day Monday for only $8.99. It's also Military Mondays. The Lube will take 25% off for all veterans, active duty military, and first responders. Quaker Steak and Lube, voted Best Wings USA.
We both lie silently still in the dead of the night. Although we both lie close together, we feel miles apart inside. Was it something I said or something I did? Did my words not come out right? Though I tried not to hurt you, though I tried, but I guess that's why they say every rose has its thorn.
Welcome back to the Watchdogs. We get ready to wrap up the show. About 15 minutes left. Anything you want to get into, 304-214-1600. That was Poison that you just heard. And bad news, it looks like the Def Leppard, Motley Crue, Poison, Joan Jett, and the Blackhearts Stadium Tour will likely be postponed once again this year. That is hard to swallow for me. I just think about all the people on that tour, especially Mick Mars. And I'm just hoping that Mick hangs on to be able to play this tour. He does not look well, Mick. I mean, I think they probably keep him in some sort of cryogenic chamber and just wheel him out for the show. And I don't care. As long as Mick is fine and this show happens, I'll be looking forward to it. Also looking forward to more basketball. We'll run down who is still left in our bracket here in a minute, but there's always that one team that will ruin your bracket, and that's why this year I am betting the tournament on FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. So because on FanDuel, your first bet is risk-free, it doesn't matter if you're betting on Houston or Gonzaga. New users get up to $1,000 in site credit back if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel has odds on all the action with games day and night, and it's easy to use on the app. Multiple deposits, fast withdrawals, and always on promotions. Your next chance to win on FanDuel is only minutes away. You know, March Madness is it has been, in fact, madness. There's no doubt about that. And as some of those teams are peeling off, I hate to say it, I know it's not going to be popular, but Baylor's looking better and better to me each time out. And I would like to see for someone from the conference win the whole thing. So let's watch it together. And if you know what, the madness isn't enough for you, you could always become a millionaire. FanDuel wants to make you a millionaire. Yes, they are giving away $1 million to one lucky bettor. New and existing customers get additional shots at the payout every day you bet on the tourney. So if you like the idea of becoming a millionaire or even a thousandaire, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Just use promo code RICK so they know that I sent you. That's promo code RICK, R-I-C, must be 21 and over, present in PA and West Virginia, no purchase necessary. Restrictions apply, $1 million drawing, risk-free offer on the first online real money wager on the site. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions do apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. We have the people left in our tournament. It's up right now over at our Facebook page and down to 8. Down to 8. And I have to say, there are a few teams in here that I am surprised they lasted as long as they did. But congratulations to Lisa, Todd, Catherine, Roger, Rosemary, Mark, William, and Joyce. They are the ones left in the opportunity to win that big flat screen TV from us and our friends at West Liberty University. So if you're still in it, you don't know if you're still in it, over at our Facebook page, perfect opportunity for you to find the bracket. Who do you like, Lola? Would you see this? Did you watch any of this weekend?
Yes, I did.
What did you see that you liked?
Michigan is just smoking.
Yeah, I know it hurts all my Ohio State friends, but watching Michigan play basketball is a throwback to my youth. Nostalgia is one of my favorite things. I mean, on Friday, we had all the nostalgia we could handle. A great conversation with DC, the Brain Supreme from Tag Team. What did we talk about? Classic hip-hop. It was like my favorite thing ever. I love nostalgia, and watching Michigan play basketball the way they're playing basketball, seeing the old guys from Michigan be around, it's great.
With Juwan as the coach now, and his son is just now starting to play for him. And I mean, the kid's on the bench, and he really is kind of small. I was surprised. But he put him in the last, 2 minutes, and he scored and then got a foul, so he had a 3-point play. And the whole team just went nuts on him. It was just so awesome. And the look on John's face, when it was priceless. It was absolutely, and he's got him for another 3-4 years.
Yeah, Juwan Howard, you want to talk about nostalgia. I mean, Fab Five. Get into that.
Well, and Grant Hill was one of the announcers, or one of the play-by-play guys, so it was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. C. Webb. I know it brings back painful memories of that timeout, but seeing Michigan basketball play the way they're playing, to me, is fun and nostalgic. One thing too, and granted Syracuse isn't in it anymore, but the idea of playing for your dad, Buddy Boeheim, of course, playing for Jim Boeheim, and now Juwan's kids playing for him. I don't think if you play at a small school, like if you went to West Lib, and I'm not knocking West Lib, obviously they did very well this year and gave us a lot of excitement in the region. But if you go to West Lib and your dad coaches at West Lib and you play on the team that your dad coaches, maybe it's not incredibly weird because there's not an enormous spotlight. It's not an enormous spotlight, but locally it is, but not on a national scale. You're not in an enormous spotlight. Could you imagine being Juwan Howard's kid and playing for him at Michigan? Like, what pressure that must be, or Buddy Boeheim? I think that might be tough because Juwan's just young into his coaching career. Boeheim is one of the best ever to do it. Yeah. And so if your kid doesn't go out there and perform, or your team is lackluster and your kid is on it and he's a starter, boy, the questions that you would have to answer, I think, would be uncomfortable. I think it'd be really uncomfortable. But I think it's probably a really interesting dynamic. Be like, oh, this is the guy who raised me. I spent every day of my life living in his house, and now all of a sudden we're in the tournament together. My dad was a tournament legend, and now I'm on this team. I think it would be very hard to do. We're going to go ahead and take our last break. We'll come back and wrap this thing up. This is The Watchdog.
There's variety shows, and then there's, my variety show. I'm Bill DeFabio, and I bring you the best variety talk in the Ohio Valley, quite possibly the world. Join me from noon till 2 to talk sports, nostalgia, and hear from some of the legends of the game. You won't believe who I have on next. The Bill DeFabio Variety Show, noon till 2 on the Watchdog.
Add comfort to your home and get 11% off everything now at Menards. Find your style with Patriot Lighting ceiling fans. The LED Ogan ceiling fan comes with a remote and easily lets you change the color temperature. Get 11% off all Patriot Lighting ceiling fans. Get 11% off everything now at at Menards. Good through April 3rd. Savings are a mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
There are times when you shouldn't ignore what your body is telling you, and you need to seek medical care. At Wheeling Hospital, we want you to know that we are taking every precaution to make your visit as safe as possible. We're screening visitors using the latest infection control technologies, offering telehealth for physician visits, and more. This is true throughout our campus, in our ER trauma center, our physician offices, surgical center, and on our patient floors. The pandemic isn't over, but be assured that at Wheeling Hospital, we are here when you need us.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
Guess I should know by the way you parked your car sideways that it wouldn't last. See, you're the kind of person who believes in making out once, love them and leave them fast. Guess I must be dumb. She had a pocket full of horses, Trojan and some of them used. But it was Saturday night, I guess that makes it alright. You see, what have I got to lose?
I'm Big Rick, that's Lola. Get ready to wrap up the show today. Real big talk here on the Watchdog. WTRF News coming up next. Pittsburgh Penguin hockey tonight. Pens look on fire right now. Big win the other night. Brian Rust with a hat trick. And they're taking on the Islanders. Right now, Pens sit in third place. If they win tonight, they would be in a tie for second with the Islanders. That would be great if that could happen. Continue to look strong. Goaltending, boy, I mean, we talked at the beginning of the season-ish, I guess, back in January when the season started. They looked so bad at goaltending. The story was they were trying to pursue Marc-Andre Fleury to get him back, just to level out the goaltending situation. Turns out that these guys have come alive, knock on wood. Casey DeSmith and Tristan Jarry look pretty good for the Pens. Rust is scoring goals at an excellent clip. Like I said, a hat trick the other night. The Stars are doing star things. Zucker's looking to come off of the injured reserve list, so they are slowly getting healthier. The defense is gelling. Pens look sharp. You can hear them tonight right here on the Watchdog. Tomorrow we've got Oak Glen at Wheeling Central. That game's at 7:30. And then Wednesday, High School Sports Line. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. So got a lot to look forward to as we get through the week of sports, some WVU baseball, plenty of local basketball to get you through as well. Speaking of basketball, we were talking about Michigan, Lola. Did you see that story about the Michigan women's basketball team had to make an emergency landing from a flight?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, and luckily everybody's okay, but they were flying and they had immediately touched down in Indiana. Luckily, everything went fine. But yeah, what a scary thing. Obviously, in this state, we think so much about teams and airplanes with what happened at Marshall. And so, yeah, it's a very scary situation. Glad that turned out to be just fine. Other sports headlines, we get ready to wrap up the show. NFL should be, at least it looks like they're heading towards a 17-game season. A 17-game season. For the players, it's another game check. For the league, I think it's an opportunity to make up the revenue that they lost this year. Mr. Rooney said he expects full stadiums when season starts at the end of August into September. I don't see how that's possible, but boy, that would be... The NFL is licking its chops thinking about that. I don't see it.
I do. It's the NFL. Are you kidding? Yeah.
I guess I just, like for Pennsylvania, let's face it, Pennsylvania is going to be one of the last states that just says, all right, everybody can go back to doing what they want to do. For Pennsylvania, I don't see it. Obviously, for the Texans and for the Cowboys, I mean, you're talking about 100,000 people in Cowboy Stadium, 100,000 plus. At Jerry Jones's house. That I see. That I absolutely see. California, I mean, the Rams and the Chargers can't fill up stadiums anyway, no matter if they're good or not. I don't see it in Seattle either. There are some places, though, I do think the NFL will probably fill up the stadiums at the beginning of the season. I don't think Pittsburgh or Philadelphia is one of those places. 17 games.
Those are outdoor stadiums. I get it. I don't think Detroit will initially. But that's a dumb stadium. If you're outside and you make everybody be vaccinated to get in the door, what is the problem?
We are going to have a big conversation about that tomorrow. There's a hot story out there about vaccination passports. We're going to get into that tomorrow. For Lola, I'm Rick. You guys have a fantastic rest of your evening. Let's go Pens. Hear them tonight here at 7 on The Watchdog.